Chapter 245. After an hour, more than 100 fourth-rank magical beasts had been completely beheaded. Among them, 99% of them were all killed by Jianshin alone. Following the death of the fourth-rank magical beasts, those great Saint Masters had also been freed up one after another to deal with the remaining low-rank magical beasts, causing the pressure on everyone to be greatly reduced. And Jianshin also didn't stop to rest. Now that the third-rank magical beasts had become his target, he had already separated himself from the large group and arrived at the place where the magical beasts were densely gathered to begin a massacre. The surrounding sea of magical beasts had completely concealed his figure. Jianshin unceasingly brandished his sword in the midst of the magical beasts, thrusting his sword. That extremely fast speed and the various movements he made from time to time made it seem as if he was dancing in the midst of the magical beasts. Everywhere he passed, only corpses were left behind. All of the magical beasts were practically killed in one strike. These magical beasts with the strongest strength were only at the third rank. They simply didn't pose the slightest threat to Jianshin. It was as if he had a pair of eyes on the back of his head. No matter how many magical beasts were sneak attacking him from behind, he would always be able to dodge in time. Even if he was surrounded, he still wasn't afraid. Like a god of death, he unceasingly slaughtered his way out. Facing Jianshin, who was like the incarnation of a god of death, these magical beasts not only didn't have the slightest fear. The smell of blood that soared into the sky instead made them even more crazy. One by one, they rushed towards Jianshin without any regard for their lives. Those roars that were enough to shatter people's eardrums unceasingly reverberated in the boundless horizon. Roar! Just at this time, a heaven-shaking roar transmitted from the distant forest. That billowing sound wave shook the ground a few times. And after hearing this roar, the magical beasts on the city wall all revealed a terrified expression in their eyes. They stood there shivering, letting the mercenaries' weapons cut their bodies, but they didn't give a counterattack. One by one, it was as if they were suddenly scared silly. Jianshin stopped slaughtering the magical beasts. He sheathed his sword and pointed it at the ground. Drops of crimson blood dripped from the tip of the sword and dripped to the ground. Jianshin didn't pay any attention to the trembling magical beasts around him. Instead, he stared in the direction of the mountain range of magical beasts with an incomparably solemn expression. Just from the sound alone, he already knew in his heart how powerful that magical beast of the fifth rank hiding within the mountain range of magical beasts was. Perhaps it was as powerful as Katata had said. It was so powerful that even if both of them worked together, they could barely hold it back. The forest in the distance began to tremble slightly, and a 5-meter tall magic beast walked out of the forest. It was a magic beast that looked very similar to an ape, but the only difference was that it didn't have any hair on its body. Its body was covered with a layer of small green scales, like snake scales. Under the illumination of the sun, the scales shone with a green light, dazzling the eyes. Roar! The ape slowly walked out of the lush forest in the distance and let out a furious roar towards the sky. The sound shook the heavens, and the rolling sound waves dispersed quite a bit of the clouds in the sky. When the loud sound reached the ears of the group of mercenaries, their eardrums began to buzz. The magical beasts that were fighting fiercely with the mercenaries began to tremble even more violently. One by one, they suddenly turned around and crawled towards the ape, completely ignoring the mercenaries. It's actually a scaled green devil ape. It's said to be extremely strong. Moreover, the layer of green scales on its body also has a very strong defense. Even an Earth Saint Master would have a hard time breaking through it. Staring at the ape in front of him, Jianshin muttered with a solemn expression. He could feel an extremely great pressure from the ape. Standing on the wall, Katata's expression also became serious. He said in a low voice, "I didn't think that it would actually be a scaled green devil ape. The scaled green devil ape's defense is extremely strong. In addition to that, it's at least a 4th cycle Earth Saint Master. It's very difficult to deal with." Difficult to deal with. Standing beside Katata, the taciturn Katafii also said with a serious expression, "Ever since coming to Wake City, this was the first time his expression had changed." At this moment, from the forest in the distance, another 3 figures slowly walked out. They silently stood behind the scaled green devil ape. These 2 figures turned out to be 2 gigantic magic beasts. One of them was a giant tiger that was 2 meters tall and 5 meters long with golden fur all over its body. Beside this giant tiger was a magic beast that was more than 10 meters tall and half the height of a human. This magic beast looked like a crocodile. The ink-black leather armor on the crocodile looked very hard. Under the sunlight, it shone with a cold black light. 7 black bone spurs that were about 2 meters long and shone with a biting cold light were inserted on its back. It looked like this crocodile added a sense of majesty to it. Seeing the 2 magical beasts silently standing behind the scaled green devil ape, Katata's face immediately paled. His face was filled with disbelief as he involuntarily said, "A golden-maned tiger king and a saber-toothed crocodile. They're actually 3 class 5 magical beasts." Katafiai's cold face also faintly paled. The 3 class 5 magical beasts in front of him made him feel a bit of fear. Not to mention the scaled green devil ape. Just the golden-maned tiger king and the saber-toothed crocodile that had appeared behind them were extremely difficult to deal with. Now that all 3 of them had attacked at the same time, Katata took a deep breath. At this moment, he felt his hands and feet turn cold. Without any hesitation, he immediately shouted to City, Lord Yunli beside him, "Quick! Immediately notify the citizens of Wake City and have them evacuate as soon as possible. Wake City cannot be saved." "Yes, yes. I'll do it right away." City Lord Yunli's face was also as white as paper. 3 class 5 magical beasts were not something that Wake City could defend against. Even the intermediate magic crystal cannons would not be able to pose a threat to them. Unless Wake City had at least 5 more Earth Saint Masters, however, the chances of that happening were extremely slim. What should we do now? The usually quiet Katafii finally opened his mouth and asked, "Right now, we can only do our best to delay them and buy time for the citizens of Wake City to evacuate. Although we cannot win, we can at least delay them for a while. If possible, it would be best if we could lure the 3 magical beasts away. However, the 2 of us must be extremely careful and try not to get injured. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape the pursuit of these class 5 magical beasts," Katafii said in a heavy tone. Katafii nodded slightly but did not say anything. Standing in the middle of the magical beasts, Genshin naturally noticed the 2 magical beasts that had just appeared. However, his eyes were fixated on the golden, furred Tiger King. In his mind, it was as if he was watching a movie, constantly replaying scenes from the past. Once, it was this golden-furred Tiger King that had chased him and the other members of the Flame mercenary group away. Once, it was this golden-furred Tiger King that had left him alone in the Flame mercenary group. Once, it was this golden-furred Tiger King that had killed Uncle Kendall and the other brothers of the Flame mercenary group, Kendall who cared about him the most, who had a straightforward personality, and Xiao Dao who was cheerful and passionate, the faces of the former. Members of the Flame mercenary group were like paintings that replayed in Genshin's mind. Originally, they were like a happy family of adventurers, but because of the golden-furred Tiger King's arrival, everything had changed. Today, although the Flame mercenary group still existed, the people had already changed. The past events could only form an unchangeable and inflexible painting that was deeply buried in the depths of his memories. Those brothers who had long since passed away would never return. Those familiar souls had already dissipated into the boundless world, leaving behind only a deep and sorrowful memory. Chapter 246. Facing 3 class 5 magical beasts, Genshin didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. Instead, he was filled with hatred. The 3/5 rank magical beasts calmly stood there. The pressure they emitted not only caused the magical beasts to shiver in fear, but even the mercenaries fighting the magical beasts felt their chests tighten. It was as if there was a large stone stuck in their hearts, causing them to panic. What is that? At this time, a mercenary finally noticed the 3 magical beasts in the distance. "It's too far, I can't see clearly." Scaled green devil ape. That's actually a scaled green devil ape. Not good. That's a class 5 magical beast. Only a class 5 magical beast can emit such a powerful aura. Those 3 magical beasts in the distance are all class 5 magical beasts. Heavens, 3 class 5 magical beasts actually appeared. Hurry up and retreat. No one can stop a class 5 magical beast. Among the mercenaries, there was no lack of people with extraordinary eyesight. When they recognized the class 5 magical beasts, they immediately cried out in fear. When they heard that there were actually 3 class 5 magical beasts in front of them, all of the mercenaries' faces turned deathly pale. They no longer had the heart to continue fighting, so they all threw away their armor and fled into the city. As for the great Saint Masters, who already knew that they would encounter class 5 magical beasts, they all paled. Even though they had heard from City Lord Yunli that King City had already sent Earth Saint Masters to deal with the class 5 magical beasts, there were still 3 of them. Perhaps even the experts sent by King City wouldn't be able to deal with them all. "Retreat, all of you retreat." Immediately, a mercenary group leader shouted out. Immediately, the 200,000 mercenaries and a large number of city guards outside of Wake City threw down their helmets and armor and rushed into the city as if they were running for their lives. "Everyone, don't panic. I'll deal with the class 5 magical beasts." Right at this moment, a loud voice suddenly rang out. Following that, 2 fiery red rays of light shot out from the city walls, streaking across the sky like 2 blazing meteors, heading straight for the class 5 magical beast. The 2 Earth Saint Masters, Katata and Katafii, finally made their move. Although they wanted to stall for time and allow more people to retreat, the situation outside the city didn't allow them to hesitate in the slightest. If all of these mercenaries retreated into Wake City, not only would it cause chaos, the city would also be captured even sooner. Katata and Katafiai's bodies were surrounded by a layer of flames as they streaked across the sky, breaking through the air for 50 meters before finally landing on the ground. After that, their bodies were covered in raging flames as they stepped on the bodies of the magical beasts and rushed towards the class 5 magical beasts several miles away. Fire attribute Saint Force. That's actually an actual flame. It's said that only Earth Saint Masters with fire attributed Saint Force can form flames like that. Earth Saint Masters. Those 2 are actually Earth Saint Masters. We actually have Earth Saint Masters here. Damn it, what's there to be afraid of class 5 magical beasts? We also have peak Earth Saint Masters here. Brothers, don't be afraid. Charge, kill these beasts and avenge our fallen brothers. The mercenaries were overjoyed when they saw Katata and Sven shrouded in a layer of flames. Cries of surprise rang out one after another. Some of the mercenaries who had been frightened out of their wits by the appearance of the 3 level 5 magical beasts seemed to have taken a calming pill and were no longer as fearful as before. Only a small portion of people and a few great Saint Masters still had a trace of worry on their faces. Magical beasts were born with an innate advantage and were originally stronger than humans. Now that there were 3 class 5 magical beasts in front of them, could 2 Earth Saint Masters really deal with them? "Leave the golden fur tiger king to me." Seeing Katata and Katafii pass by him, Jianchen loudly shouted out. Without any hesitation, he brandished his light wind sword and slaughtered all the magical beasts that blocked his path. His speed was so fast that it was as if he was running on flat ground. Any magical beast that tried to block his path was cut in 2 by the light wind sword. Even the strongest magical beasts were unable to block Jianchen's sword. At this moment, the light wind sword was like a divine weapon that could kill gods and Buddhas. Tens of thousands of magical beasts were unable to stop Jianchen in the slightest. At this moment, it was as if Jianchen was possessed by the god of war. His divine might was unparalleled and his might was inviolable. Every time he attacked, it was a one-hit kill. The Katata brothers were already engaged in battle with the 3 Class 5 magical beasts. Both of them possessed fire-attributed Saint Force, so their attacks were extremely powerful. Their battle with the 3 Class 5 magical beasts was extremely intense. In just a few clashes, the surroundings had been destroyed beyond recognition. Powerful ripples of energy, mixed with waves of heat, spread out in all directions, causing some of the weeds on the ground to wither rapidly. The ground seemed to have become more and more dry from the heat. Roar! The green-scaled devil ape angrily roared. Its fist was the size of an adult's head and was covered in small green scales. It emitted a misty halo of light as it ferociously smashed towards Katata. Katata's body immediately moved a few meters away, dodging the green-scaled devil ape's fist. With a loud bang, the green-scaled devil ape's fist fiercely smashed into the place where Katata had just been. The fist's powerful energy exploded out, creating a 3-meter wide and 5-meter deep crater in the ground. On the other side, the swordfish crocodile opened its mouth and spat out a gray ball of energy towards Cataphil. At the same time, a bone spear on its back that flickered with a cold light slowly pressed down from its back, steadily lying on its head. Then, it charged towards Cataphil with its sharp bone spear. The golden-maned tiger king, whose body was covered in golden fur, constantly let out deep roars. Its sharp claws, which could easily tear through metal, flickered with a threatening cold light, forming a phantom that grabbed at Katafii. Its bloody mouth emitted a foul stench, constantly opening and closing, biting towards Katafii's head. Katafii and Katafii didn't want to meet the 3 magical beasts head-on. The 2 of them knew that they weren't a match for the 3 magical beasts. If they were to meet them head-on, not only would they not be able to win, they would also use up too much of their Saint Force to escape. Everything they did was to stall for time and think of a way to lure the 3 magical beasts away. At this time, Jianshin had finally arrived. His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at the golden-furred Tiger King. The purple and green sword chi on the light-wind sword had unknowingly become even more intense. However, it didn't leak out any of its aura. From afar, no one would have thought that the purple and green sword chi on the light-wind sword actually contained a terrifying killing power. Jianshin turned into a blur as he quickly closed in on the golden-furred Tiger King that was attacking Katafii. At this moment, his eyes narrowed as he locked onto the golden-furred Tiger King's throat. The light-wind sword carried a powerful sword chi as it pierced towards the golden-furred Tiger King. Even though it could feel Jianshin's attack, a Class 5 magical beast had already gained some basic intelligence. In the eyes of the golden-furred Tiger King, a great Saint Master like Jianshin was as weak as an ant. The golden-furred Tiger King didn't even turn its head. It swung its tail, which was even longer than its body, towards the light-wind sword with a whistling sound. The strength of the golden-furred Tiger King's tail was extremely great. If it was a normal Saint Master that was struck, their saint weapon would probably be shattered into pieces. However, the moment the golden-furred Tiger King's tail came into contact with the light-wind sword, it was silently cut in two. Because of the inertia, the broken tail slammed into Jianshin's right arm, causing his sword to miss the golden-furred Tiger King's neck. Ho! The golden-furred Tiger King let out a pained howl towards the sky. The sound of the howl was so loud that it seemed to be able to pierce through stone. The Katafii brothers and Jianshin felt a slight pain in their ears. Now's the time. Looking at the golden-furred Tiger King's head that was facing the sky, Jianshin's eyes flashed. Without any hesitation, the light-wind sword pierced towards the golden-furred Tiger King's neck. The light-wind sword pierced through the golden-furred Tiger King's neck without any resistance. At the same time, the golden-furred Tiger King's painful howl disappeared. Immediately after, a huge tiger head fell from the sky, spraying blood everywhere. Below it, a huge fountain of blood shot up into the sky, reaching a height of 2 meters. Chapter 247. The Golden-Haired Tiger Kings. Large tiger heads spilled out blood and flew into the air. The tiger body that had already lost its head also fell to the ground powerlessly. Bright red blood gushed out from its broken neck and dyed the ground red. Kata and Kata Fei looked at the golden-maned Tiger King's head that was sent flying into the air. For a moment, they forgot what they were doing and stood there in a daze. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were filled with disbelief. The golden-maned Tiger King was a Class 5 magical beast. Even if it was any of them, they would have a hard time killing it. But now, it had been beheaded by Genshin. This caused them to be extremely shocked by Genshin's strength. At this time, the green-scaled ape and bladed crocodile that were fighting with them also stopped their attacks and turned to look at the golden-maned Tiger King's head that was still spinning in the air. Their eyes were also filled with shock. Without waiting for the golden-maned Tiger King's head to fall to the ground, Genshin flashed in front of the bladed crocodile. Taking advantage of the bladed crocodile's stupor, the light wind sword was covered in a layer of purple and green light as it pierced towards the bladed crocodile's head. Feeling the danger coming from above its head, the bladed crocodile suddenly came back to its senses. Without any hesitation, 2 of the 7 bone spikes on its back shot out at the same time. With a piercing sound, they shot towards Genshin's chest and towards the light wind sword. The speed of the bone spikes was even faster than Genshin's sword. The bladed crocodile's had immediately tilted to the side and a layer of solid earth armor condensed on its head. It looked like a layer of armor protecting the bladed crocodile's head. Ding! One of the bone spikes hit the light wind sword, creating a crisp sound. The huge force behind the impact caused Genshin's right arm to feel a sharp pain. The light wind sword in his right hand almost flew out of Genshin's grasp. The bone spikes were very sturdy. In such a short period of time, the light wind sword was not destroyed and only left a deep mark on the tip. Pooh! Just as the bone spear was about to hit the light wind sword, another bone spear pierced through Genshin's chest and came out from behind, disappearing into the distance. Genshin's face turned pale in an instant, and traces of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The bone spike contained a powerful and violent energy. The moment it pierced his chest, it entered his body and rampaged around like a wild horse, destroying his internal organs. Because Genshin had always been training his body, his internal organs were 100 times stronger than a normal person's. Ignoring the chaotic energy in his body, he endured the pain in his chest and once again stabbed at the sword crocodile with his light wind sword. The saber crocodile's figure retreated rapidly, and a ball of powerful energy shot out from its mouth towards Genshin. The saber crocodile already possessed a certain level of intelligence. Although it could not be compared to a human, it could sense from the Golden Tiger King's actions that Genshin's sword could not be touched. "Tie it down for me." Seeing the saber crocodile continuously retreating, Genshin shouted loudly. At the same time, he twisted his body slightly, narrowly dodging the ball of energy, and continued to charge towards the saber crocodile. A figure flashed, and Katafi appeared beside Genshin, his entire body emitting Saint Chi. The Saint Chi on his greatsword was so strong that it seemed as if it had turned into a solid flame, and he fiercely chopped down at the ball of energy. Pum! The ball of energy that the saber crocodile spat out was shattered by Katafi-Ai's greatsword, and a powerful energy wave spread out in all directions. The ground was sent flying, and a cloud of dust filled the air, engulfing the 2 people and the saber crocodile in an instant. Katafi-Ai was bathed in flames, and he relied on his intuition to face the storm of energy. Although the cloud of dust had blocked his vision, it still could not stop him from advancing. A fiery red light flashed, and within the cloud of dust, Katafi-Ai's greatsword once again chopped down with all its might. The extremely hot Saint Chi on the greatsword seemed to evaporate the surrounding air. With a muffled sound, the swordfish crocodile, which was over 10 meters long, was sent flying by Katafiai's sword. It flew out of the area that was shrouded in smoke and dust. A part of its leather armor had been broken, and blood was flowing out. With a flash, Genshin quickly rushed out of the cloud of dust and chased after the saber crocodile's body that had yet to land on the ground. His light-winged sword filled the sky with sword chi, and with an incomparable speed he stabbed at the saber crocodile's head over 100 times. A large amount of blood, mixed with bits of white flesh, flew in the air. Before the saber crocodile's body had even landed on the ground, its head had already been chopped into pieces by Genshin. In front of the sword chi, the saber crocodile's armor was as weak as tofu, and it was completely useless. The huge body of the sword crocodile finally landed heavily on the ground. Its body slightly trembled a few times before it stopped moving. Its head had already been split into pieces, and its head was densely covered with countless sword wounds. White blood and flesh mixed together and slowly flowed out of the wounds. Pum! Not far away, Katafiai had been fiercely punched by the green-scaled ape. His entire body was sent flying like a cannonball, and he couldn't help but spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. The green-scaled ape looked at the saber crocodile's head that had been split into pieces, and its eyes became even more ferocious. It let out a sorrowful roar towards the sky and pulled out a 30-meter tall tree beside it and threw it towards Genshin. Genshin didn't move from his original position, and his light-wind sword filled the sky with sword chi as he continuously stabbed forward. A large amount of wood chips flew everywhere, and the tree had already been chopped into pieces by Genshin. Immediately, Genshin flew towards the green-scaled ape, and with his light-wind sword he aimed it at its throat. The green-scaled ape roared, and before Genshin could even get close to it, it viciously kicked out with one foot, directly landing a kick on Genshin's chest. Wah! Genshin immediately spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his face became incomparably pale. His entire body was sent flying a full 30 meters before landing heavily on the ground. He slid for another 10 meters before coming to a stop. At this moment, his chest had already been deeply caved in. The green-scaled ape's kick had an unimaginable amount of strength, and the bones in his chest had already been shattered by the green-scaled ape's kick. Even his 5 viscera and 6 bowels had suffered a great deal of damage. The green-scaled ape's eyes flashed with a red light as it stared at Genshin. It took large strides towards Genshin, and with every step it took, the ground would violently tremble. It was like a mighty and inviolable god of war. At this time, a flaming sword chi suddenly shot towards the green-scaled ape, and Katafiai, whose entire body was covered in flames, slowly walked out of the smoke with his sword in hand. The green-scaled ape did not even look at the fire-red sword chi. It directly threw out a punch, shattering the sword chi from Katafiai. The sword chi dissipated into the surroundings as a ripple of energy. It continued to advance towards Genshin. Genshin had killed 2 Class 5 magical beasts, so he had clearly caught the attention of the powerful green-scaled ape. Katafiai had a dignified expression on his face as he looked at the pale-faced Genshin, who was struggling to get up. He then rushed towards the green-scaled ape. Chapter 248. Fire-attributed Saint Force surged out of Katafiai's body, forming a ball of raging flames that enveloped him. It was as if a god of fire had descended. The green-scaled ape did not take Genshin seriously at all. His fist-sized eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty light as he viciously stared at Genshin. It was as if he had some sort of deep grudge against Genshin. The pale-faced Genshin endured the pain from his chest and stood up with great difficulty. The movement of his body caused the broken bones in his chest to pierce deeply into his flesh. The heart-wrenching pain caused him to break out in a cold sweat. Seeing the green-scaled ape walk towards him step by step, Genshin's face became extremely solemn. He knew that the golden-furred tiger king and the saber-toothed crocodile must have a deep relationship with the green-scaled ape. He had killed the golden-furred tiger king and the saber-toothed crocodile, so the green-scaled ape was already concerned about him. Seeing that the green-scaled ape was ignoring him, Katafi growled. The flames on his body surged, forming a 3-meter-long blade above his head. Fire Cloud Blade! Following Katafi's shout, the fire blade floating above his head suddenly emitted flames that soared into the sky, turning half of the sky red. With a brilliant meteor-like radiance, it slashed towards the green-scaled ape. The green-scaled ape finally stopped. It let out an angry roar and threw a punch at Katafi's fire cloud blade. With a violent explosion, the fire cloud blade shattered like a tile in front of the green-scaled ape's punch. It turned into sparks that filled the sky and scattered in all directions. The surging heat wave caused some of the grass on the ground to be burned to ashes. In the sparks that filled the sky, Katafi's body flew backwards, a kite with its string cut. In the end, he landed 20 meters away in an extremely miserable state. His face had already become pale. The green-scaled ape's huge body trembled slightly. A shocking wound had appeared on its fist the size of a human head. The scales there had already shattered, and a green liquid slowly flowed out, dripping to the ground drop by drop. Roar! The green-scaled demonic ape Yangtian let out an angry roar. Its fist-sized eyes stared intently at Katafi, who had fallen 20 meters away. Its eyes glowed fiercely as it finally changed its target, taking large strides towards Katafi. Katafi had injured it. This was absolutely unforgivable to it. Flaming Cloud Saber. Just as the green-scaled ape was focusing its attention on Cataphil suddenly appeared behind it and leaped high into the air. He also wielded a fiery red broadsword that emitted a blazing light and slashed towards the green-scaled ape. As the sparks flew, a finger-sized wound appeared on the shoulder of the green-scaled demon ape. What a strong defense! Katata cried out in alarm. The defensive power of the green-scaled demonic ape was beyond his expectations. His all-out attack had only left a small wound on its body. A large hand suddenly slapped towards Katata from the front. Katata's left hand viciously struck the green-scaled demonic ape's body and used the powerful recoil to fly backwards, dodging the green-scaled demonic ape's palm. The green-scaled demonic ape suddenly turned around and stared at Katata with its crimson eyes filled with killing intent. It slapped out again, leaving behind an afterimage in the air as it struck towards Katata. Katata's expression suddenly changed. His body was still in the air, and there was nowhere for him to use as leverage. Moreover, the green-scaled demonic ape's palm was coming at him so quickly that he had no way of dodging. Katata roared as fire saint force erupted from his body like a volcano, instantly forming an energy barrier that protected his body. At the same time, the saint weapon in his hand was filled with saint force as it pierced towards the green-scaled demonic ape's palm. The green-scaled demonic ape was not afraid in the slightest. Its palm didn't change direction as it continued to strike towards Katata's body. At the same time, a thick layer of green light enveloped its palm. Katata's sword was deflected to the side, and the green-scaled demonic ape's palm was like a large leaf that struck Katata's body. The sound of bones breaking could be heard as Katata was sent flying backwards, spitting out blood. At the same time, Jianshin endured his injuries and leapt towards the green-scaled demonic ape. His light wind sword was wrapped in a layer of purple sword chi as it pierced towards the green-scaled demonic ape's throat. The green-scaled demonic ape suddenly turned its head and stared at Jianshin. Without dodging, it raised its hand and slapped towards Jianshin. It was extremely confident in its body's defensive capabilities. Even the full-strength attacks of the Earth Saint Master Brothers were barely able to injure it, let alone a great Saint Master like Jianshin. Pooh! The green-scaled demonic ape scales only managed to block the light wind sword for a moment before being torn apart by the purple sword chi. The light wind sword was like a hot knife through butter as it pierced through the green-scaled demonic ape's throat without any resistance. Pa! At the same time, the green-scaled demonic ape's palm ruthlessly struck Jianshin's chest. An inconceivable amount of force was transmitted into Jianshin's body, shattering quite a few of his internal organs. At the same time, Jianshin was also sent flying as he continuously spat out blood and bits of his internal organs. Roar! Having suffered a fatal injury to its neck, the green-scaled demonic ape let out a roar towards the sky. The sound of its roar shook the heavens, scaring a large group of magic beasts into prostrating themselves on the ground as their bodies trembled. In the distance, a large group of mercenaries had already stopped their battle with the tens of thousands of magical beasts. Each and every one of them was staring in the direction of the green-scaled devil apes. They all knew in their hearts that whether or not Wake City could be saved, whether or not they could survive today, all depended on this battle. This battle not only concerned the future of Wake City, but also their survival. Green liquid continuously flowed out from the green-scaled demonic ape's neck. But it did not die because of this. Instead, its eyes became even more ferocious as it stared at Jianshin like a bloodthirsty beast. It took large strides towards Jianshin. At this time, 2 fiery red lights flashed as the pale-faced brothers, Katata and Katafii, once again charged towards the green-scaled demonic ape. Right now, the 2 of them had tacitly changed their original plan. The deaths of the golden-haired Tiger King and the bladed crocodile had given them hope. Their original plan of stalling the 3-class 5 magic beasts had been changed to killing them. Little brother Jianshin, the 2 of us will stall the green-scaled demonic ape to create an opportunity for you to kill it. Katata said to Jianshin as he fought with the green-scaled demonic ape. Although the 2 of them were already heavily injured, they were still able to stall the green-scaled demonic ape for a short period of time. Furthermore, the green-scaled demonic ape's neck had been severely injured. Even if it did not immediately die, its strength had been greatly reduced. Katafii and Katata continued to fight with the green-scaled demonic ape. During this time, the 2 of them were sent flying 3 times by the green-scaled demonic ape, causing their injuries to become even more serious. In the end, Jianshin finally found an opportunity and used all of his strength to leap onto the green-scaled demonic ape's head. His light wind sword directly pierced through the green-scaled demonic ape's brain. The green-scaled demonic ape's large body suddenly became stiff. Its large body twitched a few times before finally collapsing. Chapter 249. After an unknown amount of time, Jianshin woke up and found himself lying on a very soft bed. He looked around and found that he was in a rather luxurious room. A young girl of about 18 or 19 years old was sitting on a stool beside the bed drowsily. Jianshin checked his injuries and discovered that they were extremely severe. Not only was there a walnut-sized hole in his chest caused by the saber-toothed crocodile's bone spike, but the bones in his chest had also been shattered by the green-scaled ape. His internal organs were extremely damaged as well. Some parts of them had already shattered. Jianshin sighed inwardly. With such serious injuries, even if he used the best medicine, it would take him several days to fully recover. Right now, he could only lie in bed for a few days. He didn't want to reveal that he could control holy force, so he couldn't use it at this time. Ah, you're awake. At this time, the drowsy young girl discovered that Jianshin had woken up and immediately cried out in joy. She didn't wait for Jianshin to speak and continued, "Young master, I'll go inform the city lord." After she said that, the sleepy look on her face disappeared and she hurriedly ran out. Very quickly, the sound of hurried footsteps entered Jianshin's ears. He saw City, Lord Yin Li, and Commander Duo Li walking in one after another. Haha, little brother Jianchen, you woke up so quickly. This is really beyond my expectations. The two emissaries said that you would be unconscious for at least 2 or 3 days before waking up. I didn't think that you would wake up in just half a day. City Lord Yun Li laughed loudly. Seeing City Lord Yun Li walk in, Jianchen knew that he was currently lying in the City Lord's mansion. Little brother Jianchen, it's all thanks to you that we were able to successfully repel the magical beast wave. City Lord Yin Li said gratefully to Jianchen. Seeing the relaxed expressions on the faces of City Lord Yun Li and Commander Duo Li, Jianchen couldn't help but ask, City Lord, what is the current situation of Wake City? Haha, little brother Jianchen, because the 3 Class 5 magical beasts were killed, the rest of the magical beasts were scared out of their wits and retreated back to the magical beast mountain range. Wake City is safe now, Yun Li said with a smile, his face filled with joy. Hearing this, Jianchen heaved a sigh of relief. This was already the best result. Even though there were 3 Class 5 magical beasts attacking the city this time, we have suffered the smallest number of casualties in the history of Wake City. Yun Li continued, Brother Jianchen, it's best if you lie down and get some rest. We've already sent people to other cities to invite Radiant Saint Masters to heal you and the 2 emissaries. They'll be here before long. Jianchen nodded and didn't say anything else. With a Radiant Saint Master to heal him, he would be able to recover even faster. City Lord Yin Li didn't stay for long and quickly left the room. Wake City had just experienced a great battle, so there were a lot of things for him to do. The next day, City Lord Yin Li brought a white-clothed girl to Jianchen's room. Little brother Jianchen, the Radiant Saint Master has arrived. Let her heal you. That way, you'll be able to recover even faster. City Lord Yin Li called out as soon as he entered Jianchen's room. Hearing this, Jianchen slowly opened his eyes and looked at the Radiant Saint Master. The Radiant Saint Master was a middle-aged man around 30 years old. He wore a white robe and had a slender body. Behind him were 2 burly middle-aged men, both of whom were great Saint Masters. They seemed to be the Radiant Saint Master's bodyguards. Esteemed Saint Master, this is little brother Jianchen. City Lord Yin Li politely said to the Radiant Saint Master. Due to their special abilities, Radiant Saint Masters had a very high status on the Tianyuan continent. Even the lowest Radiant Saint Master had a status comparable to an Earth Saint Master. The white-clothed Radiant Saint Master looked at Jianchen and smiled. So you're Sir Jianchen? That's me, esteemed Saint Master. Jianchen imitated City Lord Yin Li's tone and spoke to the Radiant Saint Master with great respect. It's said that Sir Jianchen has killed 3 Class 5 magical beasts. For Sir Jianchen to possess such great strength at such a young age is truly shocking. The Radiant Saint Master smiled. Esteemed Saint Master, you've probably only heard half of the rumors. Has no one mentioned the 2 Earth Saint Master emissaries? Jianchen gently asked. His voice was rather weak. The Radiant Saint Master smiled and did not say anything else. He put his hands together and slowly closed his eyes. In the next moment, a faint layer of light appeared between his hands. The light rapidly became brighter and brighter, turning into a dazzling ball of white light very soon. When the white light reached a certain density, the Radiant Saint Master slowly pressed down with his hands, placing them on Jianchen's chest. As milky white Radiant Saint Force poured into Jianchen's chest, Jianchen's wounds rapidly healed. Jianchen frowned slightly because he felt that the Radiant Saint Master's control was far inferior to his. Not only did he gather Radiant Saint Force much faster than the Radiant Saint Master, but even the Radiant Saint Masters, 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 Radiant. Saint Masters, Radiant 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 Saint Master. Is this Radiant Saint Master purposefully holding back? Or is it the extent of his abilities? Jianqin murmured inside. At that moment, he could not help but wonder if he was at a higher level than the Radiant Saint Master before him. An hour later, the white light on Jianqin's chest slowly dispersed. The Radiant Saint Master pulled back his hands in exhaustion and said to Jianqin, "Sir Jianqin, your wounds are extremely severe. I can't heal you in one go with my current abilities. I need to heal you multiple times." With that, the Radiant Saint Master directly walked to one side and sat down. He closed his eyes to recover his mental energy. The two middle-aged men stood to the sides of the Radiant Saint Master silently, protecting him. Looks like this Radiant Saint Master is nowhere near as powerful as me. It's only been an hour, and he can't last much longer, Jianqin thought. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed just like that. The white light in Jianqin's room slowly dispersed. The Radiant Saint Master pulled back his hands from Jianqin's chest. He was exhausted. "All right, Sir Jianqin, your wounds have healed." The Radiant Saint Master smiled at Jianqin. Jianqin immediately sat up from the bed and stretched his legs. He said gratefully, "Esteemed Saint Master, your Radiant Saint Force is just too wondrous. I originally needed over 10 days to heal, but you actually healed me so quickly." The Radiant Saint Master revealed a sliver of pride when he heard that. However, he still said modestly, "It's a pity that my abilities are still a little too weak. If I were a high-level Radiant Saint Master, I would only need half a day to heal such severe wounds." Jianqin's interest was piqued when he heard that. He asked, "Sir Radiant Saint Master, are there different levels to Radiant Saint Masters?" "Of course." The Radiant Saint Master nodded slightly. "Radiant Saint Masters are the same as you warriors. They are also divided into different levels. Low-level Radiant Saint Masters can only heal some light wounds. They can't heal 2 severe wounds at all. High-level Radiant Saint Masters can not only regrow limbs, but they can also bring the dead back to life. They can revive the dead. Then how are Radiant Saint Masters divided into different levels?" Jianqin asked. He was extremely curious. The middle-aged man chuckled. "Radiant Saint Masters are also divided into 9 levels like you warriors. However, it's not as complicated as you warriors. The first level is the lowest, and the 9th level is the highest. Since Radiant Saint Masters focus their lives on cultivating mental energy, it becomes more and more difficult to increase their levels as they advance. According to my knowledge, the highest level of Radiant Saint Master on the Tianyuan continent is the 6th level. Beyond the 6th level only exists in legends." "Then may I ask what level of Radiant Saint Master you are?" "Radiant Saint Masters have a much harder time cultivating than you warriors. You warriors can use monster cores to increase your strength, but we Radiant Saint Masters can only rely on our own efforts to increase our mental energy. That's why I'm only a 3rd level Radiant Saint Master, even though I've been cultivating for over 30 years. The middle-aged man said. Hearing that, Jianqin gained a deeper understanding of Radiant Saint Masters. From the middle-aged man's ability to use Radiant Saint Force, Jianqin guessed that he was at least a 4th level Radiant Saint Master. The middle-aged man did not stay in Jianqin's room for too long. He left very quickly to treat the 2 emissaries. After Jianqin recovered, he refused the city lord's warm invitation to stay and left the city lord's estate. Walking on the street, the mercenaries on the street all had excited smiles on their faces. All kinds of news about Class 5 magical beasts were also being spread all over the street. The appearance of 3 Class 5 magical beasts in this siege had become a hot topic that everyone often talked about. I heard that 2 emissaries have come to Wake City. They're both Earth Saint Masters. Those 3 5th rank magical beasts must have been killed by the 2 emissaries. That's not necessarily true. I saw 3 people fighting with the 5th rank magical beasts. One of them was a young man who seemed to be in his 20s. Those 3 5th rank magical beasts were all killed by that young man. Don't doubt it, I saw it with my own eyes. Tui, your eyes must be playing tricks on you. How could a young man kill 3 5th rank magical beasts? It's impossible. Don't doubt it. I'm certain that those 3 5th rank magical beasts were all killed by the 2 emissaries. Aside from the emissaries, there's no one in Wake City who can fight against a 5th rank magical beast. Nonsense. I saw a young man fly up to the green-scaled ape's head with my own eyes. He used his sword to stab it in. All kinds of discussions could be heard on the streets, all of which revolved around the topic of who killed the 5th grade magical beast. Chapter 250. When he arrived at the entrance of the Kai clan, the guards at the entrance naturally recognized Jianchen. They didn't dare to stop him in the slightest, and immediately respectfully invited Jianchen in. Jianchen directly went to the small courtyard where the flame mercenaries lived. Right now, there weren't many people moving about outside the courtyard. In a nearby room, painful groans could be heard from time to time. "Captain! Captain!" As soon as they saw Jianchen enter, the flame mercenaries all saluted. Their expressions were even more respectful than before. During the battle of the magical beasts, Jianchen had not only saved many people from imminent danger, but he had also won the admiration of many members of the flame mercenaries. "Captain, you've returned." Hearing the commotion outside, Qing Feng, Mo Tian, Chaka, Duokong, and Seth all walked out of the house. All of them had some injuries on their bodies and were wrapped in white bandages that were dyed red with blood. His gaze slowly swept over the 5 of them. Seeing that the 5 of them weren't too heavily injured, Jianchen couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. The 5 people before him were the pillars of the flame mercenaries. They were the hope of the flame mercenaries' development. He didn't want them to suffer any losses. "How are the casualties?" Jianchen asked the 5 of them. "The casualties aren't too heavy. A total of 20 brothers have lost their lives. Among them are 8 Saint Masters. There are also 60 or so injured. None of them are too serious," one of them replied. "Fortunately, the casualties aren't too high." Jianchen inwardly let out a sigh of relief. He then took out a small pouch from his spatial belt and said, "There are 1,000 purple coins here. Take it and buy some first-rate medicine for your brothers. Give the rest to the families of the fallen brothers." "Thank you, Captain." Jianchen's actions made the 5 Saint Masters and the rest of the mercenaries extremely moved. Their gazes towards Jianchen were filled with gratitude. Although there were quite a few orphans among the mercenaries, many of them still had mothers in their 80s, wives, and children. They had risked their lives to come to the Tianyuan continent just to increase their strength and earn money to support their families. They were basically the pillars of their families, or even the only source of income for their families. Once they died, their families would lose their livelihood as well. Their lives would become even more difficult. Jianchen's actions immediately made many of the mercenaries feel gratitude towards him. Many of them had even made up their minds to properly follow Jianchen in the future. It could be said that Jianchen's actions had won the hearts of many people. 2 days later, City Lord Yin Li brought 2 bodyguards to the Kai clan and directly entered the small courtyard where Jianchen lived. "Little brother Jianchen, after 2 days of tidying up, we've collected all the monster cores from the magical beasts. We'll distribute them according to your contributions. Here, these things belong to you." City Lord Yin Li handed over a spatial belt to Jianchen. Jianchen took the spatial belt and looked inside. He saw a large pile of monster cores, there were actually quite a few monster cores of the 4th rank. What made Genshin even more surprised was that there were actually 2 monster cores of the 5th rank. There are a total of 400 monster cores of the 3rd rank, 100 monster cores of the 4th rank, and 2 monster cores of the 5th rank. City Lord Yin, Li said from the side. City Lord, isn't the distribution of monster cores a little too much? The monster cores of the 4th rank actually took up a quarter of the total number of monster cores of the 4th rank, and there are even 2 monster cores of the 5th rank. I'm afraid that many people will be dissatisfied with this distribution. According to reason, these 2 monster cores should go to the 2 emissaries. Although the monster cores of the 5th rank were very tempting to Genshin, there were only 3 monster cores of the 5th rank. If he took 2 of them alone, it would inevitably make the 2 emissaries unhappy. Although the monster cores of the 5th rank were precious, Genshin didn't want to offend 2 Earth Saint Masters for no reason. Little brother Genshin, this distribution is already unfair to you. You have contributed a lot in this battle. Even if you took half of the monster cores of the 4th rank, no one would say anything because other than the ones killed by the intermediate magic crystal cannons, the rest of the magical beasts were all killed by little brother Genshin alone. Moreover, little brother Genshin also saved many lives during the battle. As for the 2 monster cores of the 5th rank, this is completely the will of the 2 emissaries. City Lord Yin, Li explained. Haha, little brother Genshin, these monster cores are what you deserve. Don't be so pretentious and quickly accept them. Just as City Lord Yin Li finished speaking, another voice came from outside the house. Following that voice, 2 white-robed Katata brothers walked in from outside. The one who spoke was none other than Katata, who had an amiable expression on his face. After 2 days of recuperation and the Radiant Saint Master's treatment, the 2 brothers had recovered very quickly. Little brother Genshin, we have already treated you unfairly by only giving you 2 monster cores of the 5th rank. After all, the 3 Class 5 magical beasts were all killed by little brother Genshin alone. If it weren't for you, the 2 of us would have only been able to run away in the end. It would have been impossible for us to kill them. Taking one of the monster cores of the 5th rank is already a great bargain. Katata continued with a smile on his face. All right then. Since the emissaries have already said so, I will accept them. Genshin said with a smile. He was also very interested in a Class 5 magical beast core. This was because the energy within a Class 5 magical beast core was not something a Class 4 magical beast core could compare to. The difference in energy between Class 5 magical beast cores and Class 4 magical beast cores was simply incomparable. If they really had to be compared, a Class 5 magical beast core would probably be equivalent to several dozen or even 100 Class 4 magical beast cores. Little brother Genshin, we have already discussed. The corpses of the 3 Class 5 magical beasts are all yours. How do you plan to deal with them? Do you plan to keep them for yourself or sell them off? Katata asked with a smile. A harsh light flashed through Genshin's eyes as he said, I want to keep the golden-furred Tiger King's corpse. As for the remaining 2 corpses, I'll leave the green-scaled ape to you 2 emissaries. After all, it was all thanks to the emissaries that I was able to kill the green-scaled ape. Otherwise, even I would not have been able to kill it. A sliver of joy appeared in the eyes of Katata and Katata when they heard that. They said, all right then, we'll accept the green-scaled ape's corpse. Katata did not decline at all and accepted the corpse as expected. In his heart, he also coveted the green-scaled ape's corpse. Earlier, he had been wondering if he should use money to buy the corpse from Genshin, but now that Genshin had taken the initiative to give the corpse to them, they might as well accept it. Of the 3 corpses, the green-scaled ape's rank was the highest. It was at least a Class 5 5th transformation magical beast, and was much stronger than Katata and Katata. Just this corpse alone was worth more than the golden-furred Tiger King and the bladed crocodile combined. Next, Jian and Katata casually chatted about a few topics. Katata's face was filled with enthusiasm, and he always had a warm smile on his face. It was very touching, and it was very easy for people to have a good impression of him. As for the cold Katata, he still had a straight face as he sat to the side expressionlessly. He was a man of few words and did not say a single word. Little brother Jian, the two of us will be leaving Wake City tomorrow and returning to Sky Dragon City. In the future, when you come to Sky Dragon City, you can directly go to the city, Lord's estate, to find us. If you encounter any trouble in Sky Dragon City, you can also directly use our names. I believe that there are very few people in Sky Dragon City who would not give us face. After this battle, Katata was deeply shocked by the strength that Jian had displayed. He had looked down on Class 4 magical beasts like ants, beheaded a Class 5 golden-furred tiger king with a single strike, and crushed the bladed crocodile's head with a single strike. Such shocking battle prowess was something that even the two of them, who were Earth Saint Masters, could not compare to. Therefore, the two of them did not dare to put on any airs in front of Jian and treated him as an equal. They also did their best to improve their relationship with Jian. Of course. In the future, I may have to trouble the two of you. Jian clasped his hands and smiled. His tone was also very polite. Katata quickly left the Kai clan, while Jian asked Yun Li to stay behind. Little brother Jian, is there anything else that I can help you with? Yun Li's tone was very polite. Mayor, I really do have something that I need your help with. I wonder if you can help me find a few people. Jian got straight to the point. Haha, a small matter. I wonder who little brother Jian is looking for. As long as they are in Wake City, even if I have to turn the entire city upside down, I will definitely find them. Yun Li chuckled. After that, Jian told him the names and appearances of Uncle Kendall and the others. Finally, he added, Mayor, you only need to find their families for me. City Lord Yun Li furrowed his brows. Little brother Jian, the information you've provided is too little. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to find them. But don't worry, I'll personally take care of this matter. I'll search the entire city, but I can't guarantee that I'll be able to find them. If they're not in Wake City, then I'll be powerless. Jian silently nodded and sighed. Right now, I can only hope that they are in Wake City. Otherwise, with how big the Tianyuan continent is, I really don't know where to find them. It's a pity that Uncle Kendall left behind too little information when he passed away. He didn't even tell me where their families are. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Little brother Jian, what is the relationship between you and Mr. Kendall? Seeing Jian's expression, Yun Li asked curiously. Hearing this, Jian was silent for a while before saying, Uncle Kendall is my savior. At the same time, he was also the first captain of the Flame Mercenaries. So that's how it is. Yun Li came to a realization and didn't stay any longer. After bidding farewell to Jian, he left the Kai clan. In the afternoon, a member of the Flame Mercenaries came to Jian's room and said, Captain, there is someone outside who claims to be the captain of the Blood Rain Mercenaries. He wishes to see you. Inside the room, Jian sat cross-legged on the bed with his eyes closed. He softly said, Do you know why they are here? It seems that they are here to thank Captain for saving their lives a few days ago. The mercenary outside the room said, Tell him that we were all in trouble a few days ago. We should help each other, and there is no need for thanks. Jian said in a calm voice, Yes, sir. The mercenary accepted the order and left very quickly. However, before long, another mercenary came to Jian's room and said, Captain, there is someone who claims to be the captain of the War God Mercenaries. He wishes to see you. Tell him that I am still recovering from my injuries. It is inconvenient for me to see guests. Yes, sir. Captain, the captain of the Windstorm Mercenaries wishes to see you. I refuse. Captain, the vice captain of the Blue Mercenaries wishes to see you. I refuse." Afterwards, Jianqin did not have any peace at all. There was an endless stream of captains and leaders of various clans who came to see him. It had already been 4 days since the magical beast wave. Many people from various clans had already discovered the identity of the mysterious expert who had killed a Class 4 magical beast with a single strike and saved them, as well as 3 Class 5 magical beasts. As a result, more and more people came to visit him. After all, everyone wanted to curry favor with Jianqin, an expert who was even more terrifying than Earth Saint Masters. Chapter 251. The number of people who came to visit lasted for a full 3 days before gradually dying down. And now, Jianqin's name had once again spread throughout Wake City. His temporary residence, the Kai clan, had slowly become the #1 clan in Wake City, replacing the Tianxiong clan's original position. After all, with an Earth Saint Master who was even stronger than a Great Saint Master, the Kai clan had gained an extra guardian angel. In a place like Wake City, he was an invincible existence, and no one dared to provoke him. At the same time, under the personal arrangements of Yunli, all of Wake City's streets and alleys were filled with people looking for Uncle Kendall and the others. The rewards were so generous that it left people speechless. If a clue was provided and confirmed to be true, they would be rewarded with 10 purple coins. If they could find the person directly, they would be rewarded with 100 purple coins. 1 gold coin was enough to feed a family of 3 for a month, and 1 purple coin was equivalent to 100 gold coins. As long as a clue was provided, they would be rewarded with 10 purple coins. Such generous rewards tempted all of Wake City's residents and mercenaries. Because of the generous rewards, the entire city was filled with people looking for Uncle Kendall. 10 purple coins, to a few ordinary families and weak mercenaries, was already a considerable amount of wealth. In a luxuriously decorated restaurant in Wake City, several middle-aged men were gathered together. "This Jianqin guy sure is arrogant. He actually refused to let us in. Didn't he just kill a few Class 5 magical beasts with the help of 2 Earth Saint Masters? What's so great about him?" A middle-aged man angrily said, "Yeah, he's just a lucky brat who's not even 20 years old. What's there to be arrogant about?" A bare-chested man coldly said with a trace of disdain in his voice. Hearing the 2 men's words, a middle-aged man wearing a purple robe sat on the bed and indifferently said, "Forget it, he's already as strong as us at his age. He already has the qualifications to be arrogant. This kid's talent is extraordinary. We should quickly report this to the clan. I'm sure that the clan will try to rope him in. If he really does join the clan, then we'll have done a great service." In an independent mansion in Wake City, several middle-aged men dressed as mercenaries gathered in a quiet meeting room. "I've already heard that 2 of the Class 5 magical beast corps are on Jianqin. Big Black, immediately leave Wake City and report this to the Xia clan." A middle-aged man sitting at the head of the table ordered, "Captain, why don't we buy the Class 5 magical beasts and give them to the Xia clan? That way, we'll get even more benefits." A burly man asked in confusion, "A Class 5 magical beast is extremely precious. Let's not even talk about whether or not we have enough money to buy it. Moreover, Jianqin might not necessarily be willing to sell the Class 5 monster core. Furthermore, the strength he has displayed has already far surpassed ours. He's not someone we can control. Right now, the best method is to pass this valuable information to the Xia family. Only they have the strength to fight for the Class 5 monster core." In an ordinary restaurant in a simple room, a middle-aged man wearing linen clothes quickly wrote a letter and said, "Xiao Shan." As soon as he finished speaking, the door opened and a young man in his 20s walked in. He respectfully said to the middle-aged man, "Second Marshal Uncle, what can I do for you?" The middle-aged man handed the letter to the young man and said in a serious tone, "Xiao Shan, take this letter and return to the sect with the other disciples. Personally hand this letter to the sect master." "Yes, Second Marshal Uncle." The young man took the letter and immediately left. Seeing the young man disappear, the middle-aged man sighed and said, "A Class 5 Magical Beast Corps is just too tempting. It's a pity that this young man called Genshin is too strong. I can only hand him over to the sect master. Otherwise, once I have a Class 5 Magical Beast Corps, my chances of breaking through to the Earth Saint Master level will increase by a lot." In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In the city lord's estate, Genshin sighed and waved his hand disappointedly. Commander Duo Li understood what was going on when he saw Jian Chen's expression. He said, "Take them away." Yes. A few soldiers at the side immediately stepped forward and took away the few people in cloth clothes who were half kneeling on the ground. "Hey, hey, hey, where's our reward? Where's our reward? How can you be like this? I've already provided the information, and you haven't even given me my reward. How can you chase me away?" Commander Duo Li ignored their cries and went to Genshin's side to comfort him. "Little brother Genshin, don't worry. As long as the people you're looking for are still in Wake City, you'll definitely find them." "I hope so. Commander Duo Li, I'll be going back first." Genshin stood up and left the city lord's estate. In the past few days, many people had come to the city lord's estate to say that they had information regarding the Kendall family. However, almost all of them came to the city lord's estate with the intention of getting a reward. None of their words were true. After encountering this situation for the past few days, Genshin's mood became heavier and heavier. Could it be that Uncle Kendall's family was really not in Wake City? Or perhaps they were in some other city. Unfortunately, the Tianyuan continent was so big. Trying to find someone he didn't know in the sea of people with the little bit of information he had was like finding a needle in a haystack. It was extremely difficult. After returning to the Kai family, Genshin went straight to his own small courtyard. "Commander, a few soldiers from the city lord's estate have just delivered the corpse of a Class 5 golden furred tiger king. It's currently in there. How do you plan to deal with it?" As soon as he entered the Kai family's estate, the patriarch of the Kai family, Kai Air, asked. Hearing the words golden furred tiger king, Genshin's footsteps couldn't help but stop. In a deep voice, he said, "Skin the golden furred tiger king, wash it and roast it. Let all the brothers taste the meat of this Class 5 golden furred tiger king." Hearing this, Kai Air's eyes revealed a trace of joy. Eating the meat of a Class 5 magical beast was extremely beneficial to Saint Masters like him. Not only could it slightly increase their Saint force, it could also strengthen their bodies, making them even stronger than before. In a small place like Wake City, although there were countless low-level magical beast corpses, the meat of a Class 5 magical beast was extremely precious. It was hard to find even with 10,000 gold. Moreover, there was no market for it. Almost no one could afford to eat it. "Commander, are you really going to do this?" Kai Air still didn't dare to believe it. Genshin nodded and firmly said, "That's right. Immediately, send people to deal with it. Tonight, I want to eat the meat of the golden furred tiger king." "Yes, Commander." Kai Air was unable to contain his joy. A Class 5 magical beast corpse was worth at least several thousand purple gold coins on the market. He never thought that Genshin would be so generous as to share such an expensive Class 5 magical beast's corpse with everyone. This not only made Kai Air secretly happy that he didn't follow the wrong person, but at the same time he also admired Genshin's generosity. That night, the entire CA clan was filled with jubilation. In a wide courtyard, a huge magical beast was being roasted by a roaring fire. A large group of members of the Flame Mercenaries sat around the fire, either half-naked or wrapped in bandages. They chatted loudly with each other, occasionally laughing loudly. They were clearly very happy. Even more people stared at the golden-furred Tiger King on the fire with shining eyes. Their throats moved with difficulty as they swallowed large mouthfuls of saliva. That night, Yun Li and Commander Dali were also invited to the CAE clan to taste the meat of the Class 5 golden furred Tiger King. That night was destined to be a sleepless night for the CAE clan. With the meat of a Class 5 magical beast as their meal and the blood of the golden furred Tiger King as their wine, they held a candlelight banquet. A total of over 200 people tasted the food, and everyone ate with great joy. Their faces were filled with excitement. That night, many people returned drunk. The banquet lasted until the latter half of the night before everyone returned to their own residences to rest. After that night, Genshin's generosity made the members of the Flame Mercenaries see him in a new light. Early in the morning, outside the gates of Wake City, it had already been a few days since the magical beast attack, and Wake City had basically returned to its original state. There was an endless stream of people coming in and out of the city gates. Looking at the expressions on their faces, they didn't seem to care about the magical beast attack from a few days ago. Only the ground in the distance that was completely dyed red with blood and destroyed beyond recognition by the magic crystal cannons recorded the devastation of the magical beast attack from a few days ago. Suddenly, a group of well-dressed people riding fast horses directly rushed from the city gates to Wake City. Among them, there was a carriage pulled by 4 Class 3 magical beasts that were good at running. It could be said to be very ostentatious. On top of the carriage, there was a large flag that fluttered in the wind, with the word Xia written on it. When the general of Wake City saw the word Xia fluttering in the wind, his expression immediately changed. He immediately ordered all the soldiers not to obstruct them in the slightest, and smoothly let them into the city. Giddy up! Giddy up! The group of people didn't slow down in the slightest as they rushed into Wake City, kicking up a large cloud of dust. Along the way, they attracted the gazes of all the passers-by as they whispered into each other's ears. Who are these people? They're actually so arrogant, riding so fast into the city. Moreover, they made the city guards relax and didn't dare to make things difficult for them. I see that the 4 magical beasts pulling the carriage are all Class 3 magical beasts. This isn't something that ordinary people can afford. I reckon that this group of people has a great background. Chapter 252. Just as the Xia clan's carriage disappeared from the city gates, the city guard immediately ordered one of the soldiers. Immediately report to the city, Lord, that the Xia clan has arrived in Wake City. Yes. The soldier immediately retreated upon receiving the order and rode a fast horse towards the city, Lord's mansion. The Xia clan's group skillfully shuttled through the city streets until they finally stopped in front of the Kai clan's mansion. 2 youths at the front dismounted from their horses and came to the front of the Kai clan's gate. One of them shouted at the 2 guards, "Immediately go and call out the person in charge of the Kai clan." This person's tone was extremely arrogant, as if he didn't care about anything and everything. Although the youth's attitude was very disgusting, the 2 guards didn't dare to casually offend him. Seeing such a lineup, they knew that this person's background wasn't small. Not daring to show the slightest bit of neglect, one of the guards immediately said, "Please wait a moment. I will go and report to the family lord." The 2 guards immediately ran inside. The young man did not have the slightest intention of waiting. He lifted his foot and wanted to walk through the door. However, just as he approached the door, another guard at the door immediately blocked him and said in a neither haughty nor humble manner, "Sir, we have already gone to report to the patriarch. Please wait here for a moment." Hearing this, the youth's expression changed. He glared fiercely at the guard in front of him and angrily shouted, "Who do you think you are? How dare you block my path? Quickly get out of my way." The youth's angry shout caused the guard's expression to change slightly. He looked at the carriage not far away, but it was obvious that this guard didn't know who the Xia clan was. Although he saw the fluttering flag on the carriage, he didn't know who the other party was. Even so, with such a grand lineup, the guard didn't dare to lightly offend this group of people. "Sire, our Kai clan has its own rules. Without approval from above, I cannot let you in. Please don't make things difficult for this lowly one. The guard's tone was extremely calm. The youth coldly snorted and said in a deep voice, "A mere guard dog dares to block my path? You're courting death." The young man raised his hand and slapped the guard's face. As the slap passed, there was a slight sound of something breaking through the air. The slap was extremely heavy. The gatekeeper was also on guard against the other party. He immediately raised his hands and blocked the young man's palm. "How dare you attack our Xia clan? You must be tired of living." Another young man shouted angrily and kicked the guard in the stomach. The guard was kicked so hard that he bent over in pain and his face turned pale. However, the two youths did not intend to let him off so easily. This time, the two of them tacitly kicked the guard's head at the same time. Bang! That guard was immediately kicked into the Kai clan's gate, causing his head to bleed profusely, and he immediately fainted. Humph! A mere watchdog of a small family actually dares to obstruct our Xia family. Even death cannot wipe out his crimes. A young man sneered at the unconscious guard with a look of disdain on his face. Humph! Who dares to cause trouble in the Kai clan? Who dares to injure a guard of the Kai clan? An angry roar sounded from within the Kai clan. The Kai clan master, Kai Er, walked out with a few people, his face full of anger. "Who are you?" A young man stared disdainfully at Kai Er and asked coldly, "Humph, I am Kai Er, the master of the Kai clan." "You too, who are you?" Kai Er asked in a deep voice. "So you are the master of the Kai clan. We are from the Xia clan." A young man chuckled. "The Xia clan." Kai Er's face changed slightly when he heard this. He asked uncertainly, "Which Xia clan?" "Master Kai, you're lying through your teeth. Is there a second Xia family within 1,000 miles radius?" The young man said arrogantly. As he spoke, Kai Er led the group to the gate. The situation outside the gate was clearly presented to him. When he saw the flag on the carriage, his face turned serious. Kai Er clasped his hands and smiled. "So you are from the Xia clan? My apologies, my apologies." If Kai Er had met the Xia clan a few days ago, he would have had to greet them respectfully. But now he had nothing to fear. The Kai clan of today was no longer the Kai clan of the past. "Master Kai, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and greet our young master." The young man sneered. Kai Er's gaze fell upon the carriage. He smiled and clasped his hands. "Master Kai Er of the Kai clan greets young Master Xia. May I know the reason why young Master Xia has come to our Kai clan?" Seeing Kyle's indifferent attitude, some of the middle-aged men guarding around the carriage frowned slightly. Their gazes involuntarily became stern as they looked at Kyle. However, no one said anything. "Kai Er, I heard that a young man named Genshin is staying in your Kai clan. May I know if this is true?" A young man's voice sounded from within the carriage. "That's right." Kai Er did not deny anything. "Call Genshin out. I have something to discuss with him," the man in the carriage said. Kai Er frowned and his face showed a trace of anger. Genshin was now his master, and a powerful one at that. Although the Xia clan was powerful, Kai Er did not think that the mysterious Genshin was inferior to the Xia clan. The man in the carriage actually treated Genshin like a servant. This made Kai Er very dissatisfied. Kai Er put on a fake smile and said, "Young Master Xia, I will inform Commander Genshin. However, I cannot guarantee that Commander Genshin will not meet you." "Bastard! How dare you!" As soon as Kyle finished speaking, one of the middle-aged men on horseback couldn't help but shout, "What kind of status does our young Master Xia have? Even your Wake City lord has to be respectful when he sees our young Master Xia. Genshin is just a mere mercenary. For our young Master Xia to come all the way here to see him is already a great fortune for him. There's no need to report our arrival. Immediately call Genshin out. Genshin is just a first-level commoner. He dares to make young Master Xia wait here. Humph, what a big face. Go and call Jianqin out immediately. If you delay our time, the consequences are not something your Kai clan can afford to offend. The middle-aged men on horseback all shouted angrily. Kyle's face darkened as he listened to the angry shouts of these people. Go and find Jianqin. Young Master Xia ordered from within the carriage. Yes, young master. Immediately, a few middle-aged men dismounted and walked towards the Kai clan's courtyard. Chapter 253. The arrival of Duo Kong and the other two great Saint Masters gave the Kai clan's patriarch, Kai Er, a boost of confidence. He lightly smiled and said, Young Master Xia, please wait for a moment. I will immediately send someone to inform Commander Jianqin. Humph, in this small wake city, no one has the qualifications to make our Xia clan wait. Uncle Lu, teach these arrogant people a lesson. Young Master Xia said from within the carriage. A middle-aged man sitting on a Class 2 magical beast's mount had a fierce look in his eyes. He leapt off the mount and quickly crossed 10 meters in the air to arrive in front of Kai Er. His two legs continuously kicked towards Kai Er's head. Kai Er coldly snorted. A surge of saint force gathered in his fists and violently punched out. Every punch collided with the middle-aged man's kicks. Pung, pung, pung! With a few muffled sounds, Kai Er and the middle-aged man exchanged over 10 blows. When the middle-aged man landed on the ground, Kai Er couldn't help but take a few steps back. His fists were already red. On the other hand, the middle-aged man was still calm and composed. Both of them had the strength of a great Saint Master, but the difference was that the middle-aged man had already reached the peak of the great Saint Master level. He was stronger than Kai Er by an entire level. Both of his feet landed on the ground. The middle-aged man glared at Kai Er and sneered. A mere Kai clan dares to not put our Xia clan in your eyes. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. As he spoke, blue saint force surged out from the middle-aged man's right hand, rapidly condensing into a blue whip that was as thick as a thumb. The whip shimmered with light as visible ripples of water flowed through it. Water attribute saint force. Seeing the middle-aged man's whip, whether it was Kai Er or Duo Kong, they were all shocked. The middle-aged man actually had water attribute saint force. People with this attribute were extremely rare in Wake City. The middle-aged man waved his whip. The whip struck the air, creating a clear paw sound. It formed a blurry blue image as it lashed towards Kai Er. Furthermore, the blue ripples on the whip's surface left behind a blue ripple that confused everyone's eyes. It made it even harder for them to follow the whip's trajectory. Facing a peak great Saint Master, Kal didn't dare to be careless. He immediately took out a large sword and slashed at the whip with surging saint force. The whip was very soft. As soon as it came into contact with Kyle's greatsword, it coiled around the greatsword like a nimble viper and finally tightened. Kyle's expression changed slightly when his saint weapon was restricted. With a low roar, surging saint force surged out from his sword, bringing the whip wrapped around the sword to slash at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man sneered. In the next moment, the soft whip immediately turned into an incomparably hard iron rope. Under the middle-aged man's control, the iron rope actually forcibly restrained Kyle's large sword in midair. Kyle swung his greatsword a few times, but unfortunately the greatsword was bound in the air by the iron rope that suddenly became incomparably hard. He couldn't move it at all. With his saint weapon suppressed, Kyle was forced into an extremely passive position. Humph! The Xia clan is really arrogant. Standing to the side, Duo Kong coldly snorted. A large sword suddenly appeared in his right hand, and he swung it at the middle-aged man with the whip. The middle-aged man revealed a disdainful smile and withdrew his whip. With a wave of his arm, the whip once again turned into an illusion and lashed at Duo Kang's greatsword. This time, the middle-aged man didn't use the whip to bind Duo Kang's greatsword. Instead, he turned the whip into an iron rod that was countless times harder than steel and ruthlessly struck the side of Duo Kang's greatsword. Clang! With the sound of metal clashing, Duo Kang's greatsword was immediately knocked off course. His attack was easily neutralized by the middle-aged man's seemingly casual strike. Duo Kang's expression darkened. His gaze quickly swept past Charles and Qing Feng. He said in a low voice, he's very strong, "Let's attack together." The middle-aged man from the Xia clan had water attribute Saint Force and was also a peak Great Saint Master. His strength wasn't something that Duo Kang could deal with. Qing Feng and Charles didn't hesitate at all. They immediately took out their own saint weapons and rushed towards the middle-aged man with Duo Kang. Charles's saint weapon was a two-handed greatsword. It was fierce and domineering. With a wave of the great sword, there was an ear-piercing sound. Qingfeng's saint weapon was a 3-meter-long spear. As the spear moved, it constantly left behind silvery white afterimages in the air. It was like a dragon, but also like a lurking, poisonous snake. It appeared and disappeared unpredictably, always able to take advantage of the opponent's unpreparedness to attack fiercely. The middle-aged man was extremely strong. He didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all when fighting Duo Kang and the other two great Saint Masters alone. The whip in his hand had many transformations, and in his hands it was like an extremely elastic rubber. At times it was as hard as steel that had been tempered thousands of times. The strange and unpredictable changes made it difficult to defend against. As the whip collided with Duo Kang and the other two saint weapons, the sounds of metal clanging continuously rang out. The crisp sound spread throughout the Kai clan's courtyard. Within the Kai clan, more and more guards and members of the Raging Flame mercenaries heard the commotion and hurried over. However, when the members of the Raging Flame mercenaries saw Duo Kang and the other two fighting, they all took out their own saint weapons and prepared for battle. At this moment, two figures shot over from the distance. The other two great Saint Masters of the Raging Flame mercenaries had also heard the commotion and hurried over. The two of them didn't waste any time and immediately joined Duo Kang and the other two's group. The 5 of them gathered together to fight against the middle-aged man from the Xia clan. There was no need to ask about the current situation. Haha, I didn't think that the Kai clan would have so many hidden experts. 5 great Saint Masters. This is not a weak force in Wake City, young Master Xia slowly said from within the carriage. Young Master, you don't know, but these 5 great Saint Masters all led mercenary groups that were not weak. However, ever since Jianqin appeared, the 5 of them all disbanded their mercenary groups and joined the Raging Flame mercenaries. The leader of this Raging Flame mercenaries is none other than Jianqin. In addition, it is said that even the Kai clan's patriarch and Duo Air clan's patriarch have joined the Raging Flame mercenaries. A young man respectfully said from beside the carriage, "Oh, so there's something like this. Haha, looks like this Jianqin really isn't simple. I heard that he's only in his 20s. To have this kind of ability at such a young age, even this young master can't help but admire him." Young Master Xia lightly laughed as he sat in the carriage. Within the Kai clan, the middle-aged man from the Xia clan finally felt an enormous pressure from the combined attacks of the 5 great Saint Masters. Right now, his face was extremely serious, and he was no longer as indifferent as before. Even though he had the strength of a peak great Saint Master, as well as water-attributed Saint Force, and his battle strength could be said to be at the peak of great Saint Masters, the 5 people in front of him were not weak either. There were 3 mid-level great Saint Masters and 2 high-level great Saint Masters. This kind of formation was already enough to pose a great threat to him. Kyle stood to the side and did not participate in the battle. This was because the 5 people of the Raging Flame mercenaries already had experience cooperating with each other. Even though their cooperation could not be said to be flawless, it could still be said to be orderly. If he were to participate, he would definitely break the tacit understanding between the 5 of them. After the 6 of them clashed for a while, the middle-aged man from the Xia clan was gradually at a disadvantage. At this moment, a fierce light flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. He angrily yelled, "I'll let you see the power of my battle technique. Waterline flow." Powerful water attributed Saint force rose from the whip, and the whip in the middle-aged man's hand began to dance wildly. The space around him became densely packed with whips that were difficult to see with the naked eye. Countless finger-thick, light blue water swords appeared in the whips that filled the air. There were tens of thousands of them, and they all shot towards Duo Kang's group of 5. Duo Kang's group of 5 roared angrily. Surging Saint force burst out of their bodies, forming a barrier that enveloped their entire bodies. When the tens of thousands of water swords landed on the barrier around Duo Kang's group of 5, the barrier immediately began to violently ripple. Fortunately, the water swords were not very powerful, and the barrier of a great Saint Master was enough to block them. 10,000 rivers, mountains! The middle-aged man roared again. The whip in his hand emitted light blue water ripples, and as if it had turned into a dragon, it lashed towards Duo Kang's group of 5 with lightning speed. Duo Kang's group of 5 were fearless. They all waved their saint weapons at the same time to cut down the whip. The whip seemed small, but this time it was as if it had transformed into a mountain. It had the power of 10,000 caddies. As soon as it collided with the saint weapons of Duo Kang's group of 5, there was a loud bang. The powerful force shook their arms, and they felt as if their bones were about to shatter. The hands holding the saint weapons involuntarily drooped down, and they staggered back a few steps. However, the whip did not slow down at all. It viciously struck the chests of the 5 people. Pa! With a crisp sound, the clothes on the chests of Duo Kang's group of 5 instantly turned into powder. Bright red blood splattered everywhere. The 5 of them were directly sent flying by the whip. They finally landed heavily on the ground 5 meters away, and it was difficult for them to get up. Duo Kang's group of 5, who had originally thought that victory was in sight, had completely changed the situation because of the appearance of the battle technique. From this, one could see how terrifying the power of the battle technique was. The middle-aged man stared coldly at Duo Kang's group of 5, who were lying 5 meters away. He said coldly, "To be able to force me to use my battle technique, you should feel proud even if you die. Today, I will break your legs to vent my anger." The middle-aged man raised the whip again. Just as he was about to strike again, a loud shout suddenly rang out. "Stop!" The voice was filled with unconcealable anger. It was almost a roar. Hearing this, the middle-aged man from the Xia family subconsciously stopped what he was doing and turned to look at the person who had spoken. The person who had spoken was a young man of about 20 years of age. The young man was dressed in cheap white cotton clothes, and his long hair was casually draped over his shoulders. Although his attire was simple, it still could not hide the young man's handsome face. His skin was as white as mutton fat, and it was hard to believe that such a complexion that even women would be jealous of would appear on a man's body. His exquisite facial features were flawless, and no one doubted that this face was definitely the killer of all the young ladies in the world. Jianqin had been practicing the body-refining chapter of the purple-green sword technique since he was young. He had strengthened every part of his body from the most fundamental cells. He did not deliberately change his body. Everything developed naturally. Therefore, whether it was his body or his appearance, because of the body-refining chapter of the purple-green sword technique, they began to develop towards the most perfect state step by step. Therefore, since he was young, his appearance had been especially handsome. Moreover, since he grew up, as his body continued to improve and strengthen, his appearance also became better than before. "Who are you?" The middle-aged man from the Xia clan stared sharply at Jianqin and asked sternly. Chapter 254. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's expression changed. He couldn't help but take a good look at Jianqin. With a smile, he said, "So you are Jianqin. It seems that the rumors are true. You really do look to be in your 20s. Jianqin's gaze swept over Duo Kang's group of 5. When he saw the wounds on their chests, his expression became even more gloomy. In a deep voice, he said, "People of the Xia clan, why are you looking for me?" Jianqin's attitude caused the middle-aged man to frown. He then snorted and coldly said, "Jianqin, it is our Xia clan's first young master who is looking for you. Why aren't you greeting him?" At this moment, the curtain of the carriage flipped, and a young man in a luxurious white robe slowly walked out from within the carriage. The young man had a slender figure and was around 27 or 28 years old. He had a dignified appearance and was handsome and unrestrained. He held an expensive folding fan in his hand and gently fanned it, giving him an elegant demeanor. First young master. The young man clearly had a very high status in the Xia clan. When he appeared, the middle-aged men around the carriage all bowed respectfully. The young man didn't look sideways and directly walked into the Kai clan's courtyard. Behind him, there were several sturdy, middle-aged men. Their fierce eyes scanned the surroundings. Their expressions were full of vigilance as they protected the young man's safety. The young man's gaze fell on Jianqin. His eyes carried a sharp look as he stared at Jianqin's handsome face. With a light smile, he said, "You are Jianqin? You are indeed a man of striking appearance." Jianqin's gaze swept over the middle-aged men beside the Xia clan's first young master. Their strength was clear at a glance. 3 great Saint Masters, 5 high-level Saint Masters, and a middle-aged man with a deep understanding of water attribute Saint Force. With such a lineup, there was no power in Wake City that could compare to it. Jianqin coldly snorted and said, "Young Master Xia, state your intentions." Young Master Xia chuckled. "You're indeed a straightforward person. All right, I won't beat around the bush and get straight to the point." Young Master Xia paused, and he immediately became rather stern. "Jianqin, I know you have 2 Class 5 monster cores. I've come this time specifically to buy them from you." "Sorry, I'm not selling Tier 5 monster cores." Jianqin rejected without any hesitation. He continued, "Jianqin, keeping a Class 5 monster core with you will only bring you trouble, or even cause you to lose your life. Although you are the leader of a mercenary group and have a few great Saint Masters under you, it is still not enough to protect a Class 5 monster core. A Class 5 monster core can attract Earth Saint Masters to fight over it. You simply do not have the ability to possess it. It's better if you sell it to us. This way, not only can you obtain a large sum of money, you can also avoid some trouble." "Sorry, I've already said that I'm not selling Tier 5 monster cores to anyone." Jianqin still said the same sentence, his expression extremely cold. Young Master Xia's gaze turned cold, but he immediately hid it and smiled. "Jianqin, I'll give you 3 days to consider. After 3 days, I'll come here again. Of course, during this time, don't try to escape. Otherwise, it will only provoke the goodwill of our Xia family. You should know the consequences of that. Let's go." With that, young Master Xia turned and left. Seeing that the Xia family was about to leave, Jianqin's gaze immediately became sharp. He coldly snorted and shouted, "Wait!" Young Master Xia stopped and turned back to look at Jianqin with a smile. "What? Did you change your mind?" Jianqin stared at the middle-aged man who had injured Duo Kong and the other 4. He pointed at him and said, "They can leave, but you have to stay." Hearing this, young Master Xia's expression slightly changed, while a trace of surprise flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. "Jianqin, what do you mean by this?" Young Master Xia had already sensed Jianqin's hostility, and his expression immediately became somewhat gloomy. In the small Wake City, no one dared to challenge the Xia family's authority. Jianqin's face revealed a trace of a cold smile. "Do you really think that this is your Xia family's backyard? That you can come and go as you please? Since you've injured my men, Don't even think about leaving today. Pa! Young Master Xia fiercely slapped the fan in his hand, no longer able to maintain his calm and composure. He angrily said, "How dare you, Jianqin? Do you know who you're talking to?" Jianqin turned a deaf ear to young Master Xia's angry shouts, and only stared fiercely at the middle-aged man who had injured Duokong and the other four. The middle-aged man seemed to be amused, and could not help but reveal a trace of a smile on his face. Even though he had previously heard that Jianqin was not weak, he was after all still too young. Furthermore, the middle-aged man had absolute confidence in his own strength, and he really did not put Jianqin in his eyes. "Jianqin, could it be that you want to punish me? I wonder, how exactly do you want to punish me?" The middle-aged man said with a smile, his tone full of disdain. "Kill." Jianqin's face was expressionless, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He would never let go of those who provoked him. Furthermore, just now, if he had not appeared in time, Duokong and the other four would have suffered even more severe injuries. Furthermore, in front of so many brothers of the Blazing Flame mercenaries, he had to be firm in his actions. If he showed weakness, it would be hard to avoid repercussions. This was because even though the Blazing Flame mercenaries' strength was not weak, how many of them were dead set on following him? "Jianqin, you're courting death." Without waiting for the middle-aged man to speak, young Master Xia could not help but angrily shout. His expression had already become extremely ugly as he stared coldly at Jianqin, the intense killing intent in his eyes undisguised. Jianqin's words in front of him clearly showed that he did not put the Xia family in his eyes at all. How could young Master Xia endure this? Moreover, at this moment, the gazes of all the members of the Blazing Flame mercenaries were gathered on Jianqin, many of them secretly giving him a thumbs up. Jianqin's actions had moved many of them. Many of them had originally been subordinates of Duokong and the others, although they appeared to be inferior to Duokong and the others on the surface. They were secretly a group of close friends who had gone through life and death together. Their relationship was as close as brothers. Otherwise, they would not have joined the Blazing Flame mercenaries with Duokong and the others. Now that Duokong and the others were being bullied, they were also incomparably furious. However, the strength of their opponent was not something they could deal with. Now, they had placed all their hopes of redeeming themselves on Jianqin. The middle-aged man laughed from extreme anger. He slowly crossed his arms in front of his chest and said, "Good, good, good. Jianqin, your courage is commendable. However, you have to see who you're talking to. Otherwise, you'll only be humiliating yourself. Since you want to kill me, then do it. Let me see if you're as strong as the rumors say." "Humph, Uncle Lu, it looks like we don't need to spend money to buy the 2/5 step monster cores in Jianqin's hands." Young Master Xia sneered from the side. "That's right, young master is right. Now we can save a lot of money." The middle-aged man called Uncle Lu laughed mischievously. Immediately after, the blue whip appeared in his hand once more. With a casual wave, the whip struck the air, creating a loud cracking sound. The corners of Jianqin's mouth curled up into a cold smile. Although his opponent was an expert of the water attribute, Jianqin still didn't put him in his eyes. With a slight sway of his body, Jianqin's silhouette left behind an afterimage as he rushed towards the middle-aged man. At the same time, the light wind sword appeared in his hand, bringing a sharp sword chi with it towards the middle-aged man's throat. With a flash of silver light, the light wind sword seemed to have transformed into a bolt of lightning, instantly crossing the distance between the two. Before the middle-aged man could react, the light wind sword was only a foot away from his throat. In front of so many members of the Raging Flame mercenary group, this battle had to be won beautifully, so Jianqin used his full strength from the very beginning. What fast speed! The middle-aged man's expression changed. His originally frivolous expression suddenly became serious. From this sword, he already knew that Jianchen wasn't easy to deal with. The middle-aged man quickly retreated. With a flick of his right hand, the whip was like a nimble snake, leaving an afterimage in the air as it coiled around the light-wind sword in an attempt to bind it. However, he had underestimated the speed of the light-wind sword. Just as the whip was about to wrap around the light-wind sword's speed suddenly increased by more than double. Facing such a fast sword, the middle-aged man had no way of defending or dodging. In the end, the light-wind sword pierced through the middle-aged man's throat. Although the middle-aged man had the water attribute and had a natural advantage, in the eyes of Jianchen, this advantage was nothing. Even if he had a strong battle skill, he didn't have the opportunity to use it. The middle-aged man's eyes were wide open as he stared at Jianchen. He couldn't believe this result. With his strength, he couldn't even dodge a single strike from his opponent. Uncle Lu. Young Master Xiao's expression suddenly changed. His face was filled with disbelief. He was very clear on Uncle Lu's strength. Even in the family, Uncle Lu's strength was ranked third. Unless he met an Earth Saint Master, no one would be able to defeat Uncle Lu in a one-on-one fight. But now, the incomparably powerful Uncle Lu had been killed by Jianchen in a single strike. This kind of result was something he couldn't believe. Protect the young master. With the middle-aged man killed, the Xia family's guards immediately became vigilant. They all protected the young master behind them as they quickly retreated to the door. Each of them had a serious expression on their faces as they stared at Jianchen. They were on high alert in order to prevent Jianchen from killing him again. I've said it before. This is not your Xia family's courtyard. You can come and go as you please. Men surround them. Jianchen shouted. Yes, Captain. The brothers of the Raging Flame mercenaries all shouted in unison. They immediately blocked the entrance and surrounded young Master Xiao's group. Chapter 255. Young Master Xia, you've come with such fanfare and injured so many of my men. Do you really think you can leave this place peacefully? Jianchen said with a fake smile, his tone extremely cold. You've already killed Uncle Lu. What more do you want? Young Master Xia glanced at the hundreds of burly men in the surroundings, and a rare trace of fear appeared on his face. He continued, My father is the current patriarch of the Xia clan, Jianchen. If you kill me, the entire Xia clan will hunt you down. Do you think I'm afraid? You should know that since I dared to kill your men, I'm not afraid of offending the Xia clan. Jianchen did not mind young Master Xiao's threat and said calmly, You. Young Master Xiao's face became pale, and he secretly regretted his actions. If he had known earlier that Jianchen was so difficult to deal with, he would not have dared to disrespect the Kai clan. At this moment, Kyle came to Jianchen's side and said softly, Captain, the Xia clan is very powerful, and young Master Xia is the only son of the current patriarch. If you kill him, the Xia clan will definitely go crazy. How powerful is the Xia clan? Jianchen asked softly. This was the question he was most concerned about. Kyle whispered to Jianchen. It said that the Xia clan has 10 great Saint Masters on the surface. As for the previous patriarch, it said that 10 years ago he was already an Earth Saint Master. Not only does he possess water-attributed Saint Force, he also knows a powerful battle skill. He's extremely powerful. Jianchen nodded slightly. From young Master Xiao's arrogant tone and words, he had already guessed that the Xia clan had at least an Earth Saint Master supporting them. However, what he was concerned about was just how many Earth Saint Masters the Xia clan had. Jianchen stared at young Master Xia and said, Young Master Xia, do you want to leave this place peacefully? Although Jianchen had the intention to let them go, his attitude was still very unyielding. Young Master Xia had no doubt that he wouldn't be able to leave this place safely today if he didn't eat his words. Even someone as powerful as Uncle Lu had been killed by Jianchen in one strike. Young Master Xia knew very well that with Jianchen's strength, He was not afraid of the Xia family's might. Jianqin, our Xia clan doesn't want the Class 5 Demon Core anymore. As long as you let me go today, I can give you a large amount of money. Young Master Xia's eyes burned with a glimmer of hope. Although he looked noble on the outside, he had grown up in a sheltered environment and had always lived under the protection of his elders. He simply did not have the heroic spirit and fearless spirit of those mercenaries who had risked their lives for him. At this moment, in such a situation, it was already very difficult for him to maintain his composure. Jianqin's face revealed a trace of an evil smile. His eyes swept over young Master Xia's spatial belt and said, "Young Master Xia, since you want to leave this place safely, then you should hand over your spatial belt." Young Master Xia's face changed slightly. His spatial belt contained all of his belongings. To hand it over just like that, he was very reluctant. Young Master Xia's eyes revealed a trace of struggle. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, Jianqin, I will hand over my spatial belt to you. I hope you can keep your promise and let us leave this place safely." "Of course." Jianqin smiled faintly and said with certainty. After that, young Master Xia took off his spatial belt with a pained expression and threw it to Jianqin. Then he said, "We will take Uncle Lu's corpse with us." Jianqin didn't say anything. With a flick of his light wind sword, he took Uncle Lu's spatial belt and kicked the corpse towards young Master Xiao's group. Immediately, 2 guards carefully took Uncle Lu's corpse and stared at Jianqin as they slowly left the Kai clan. The Xia clan's group hurriedly left without the slightest hesitation. Within the Kai clan's courtyard, the members of the Raging Flame mercenaries were all looking at Jianqin with incomparable excitement. Jianqin's move had won the hearts of many of the Raging Flame mercenaries. Kyle and the other 4 all came to Jianqin's side at the same time. Kyle's face was a bit serious as he said, "Captain, now that we have completely offended the Xia clan, they will definitely not let this matter rest. It seems that we should also prepare to fight against the Xia clan." Jianqin faintly nodded. "Captain, since we have already offended the Xia clan, then why don't we just kill them all? Since we have already offended them, wouldn't it be more convenient to kill them all? Moreover, the Xia clan will also lose a few great Saint Masters, greatly reducing their strength." Charles said with a face full of regret. "No." Jianqin faintly shook his head and said, "Although I have killed an expert of the Xia clan, my strength will definitely make the Xia clan fear me. If they fight me to the death, the Xia clan will definitely suffer heavy losses. I believe that the Xia clan will also consider whether it is worth it to pay such a price for a single person. Even if they are willing to sacrifice some of the clan's strength to fight me to the death, they will most likely need some time to prepare. However, young Master Xia is different. He is the only son of the current generation of the clan, so his status is extremely special. If I kill him now, the Xia clan will probably become the second Tianqiong clan, and they will immediately mobilize the entire clan to deal with us. Although we are not afraid, almost all of our brothers in the Raging Flame mercenaries are injured right now." "Captain is wise." Hearing Jianqin's words, Duo Kong and the other 4 all nodded their heads in agreement. Jianqin took out a pouch of money from his spatial belt and said, "Here are 5,000 purple coins. Kyle, take this money and immediately go buy the best healing medicine. You must let the brothers recover as quickly as possible. The rest of the money can be divided among the brothers." Outside the gates of Wake City, 20 middle-aged men dressed in blue robes were riding Class 2 magical beasts as they madly rushed towards Wake City. The person in the lead was riding an expensive Class 3 magical beast. With one look, one could tell that he was not an ordinary person. This kind of lineup deterred many people on the road. Regardless of whether it was a merchant group or a mercenary group, they all made way for these people riding expensive magical beast mounts. Just as they were about to reach Wake City's entrance, suddenly, A group of carriages flying the Xia clan's flag rushed out of Wake City. Everyone's expression was not very good, and on the back of one of the Class 2 magical beasts was a continuously bleeding corpse. The appearance of the Xia clan's carriages caused the group of people dressed in blue robes to stop. I didn't think that the Xia clan would actually arrive before us. It seems that we are late. The middle-aged man in the lead, who rode a Class 3 magical beast, muttered. Soon after, his eyes suddenly narrowed and were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Could it be that Wake City still has such an expert? Even Uncle Lu Zhang was killed. The middle-aged man muttered absent-mindedly. Martial uncle, that is the Xia clan's carriages. I didn't think that the Xia clan would arrive so quickly. I think that Class 5 Magical Beast Corps was most likely bought by the Xia clan. The middle-aged man slightly shook his head. His gaze was fixed on the corpse of the Xia clan's carriages, and he remained silent. Chapter 256. As he watched the Xia clan's convoy leave, the middle-aged man riding on a Class 3 magical beast shouted, "Let's go into the city!" More than 20 people wearing the same uniform rushed into the city. When the guards saw that these people were all riding expensive magic beast mounts, they knew that they must have a great background, so they didn't dare to stop them in the slightest. They allowed the group to enter Wake City without any hindrance. The middle-aged man, riding on a Class 3 magical beast, slowly walked along the wide road. His eyes casually swept across the people around him as he softly called out, "Junior Zhang!" Martial uncle. A burly man walking beside the middle-aged man immediately controlled his magical beast mount to move in front of the middle-aged man and asked, "Martial uncle, what's the matter?" Junior Zhang, send a few people to find out when the Xia clan's convoy entered the city. The middle-aged man, riding on the Class 3 magical beast slowly, said with a dignified expression on his face. "Yes, martial uncle." The burly man did not ask any more questions and immediately called for the men riding Class 2 magical beasts behind him to leave and gather information. "Let's wait here for Junior Zhang and the rest to return." The middle-aged man controlled his Class 3 magical beast to stop at the side of the road and said to the men behind him, "We'll follow martial uncle's orders." Behind him, more than 10 people in tight clothes said to the middle-aged man at the same time. Soon after, the men riding Class 2 and Class 3 magical beasts waited patiently at the side of the road. Along the way, they attracted the attention of many passers-by, their faces full of curiosity. Very quickly, the people who had gone to inquire about the situation returned on their Class 2 magic beasts. The one called Junior Brother Zhang walked up to the middle-aged man and said in a low voice, "Martial uncle, the situation has been investigated. The Xia clan arrived in Wake City less than an hour ago. As soon as they entered Wake City, they immediately headed towards the Kai clan. Not long after that, they hurriedly left." The middle-aged man frowned and muttered, Kai clan, it's just as I expected." "Martial uncle, are we still going to the Kai clan?" Junior Brother Zhang said from the side. Although he looked like a boorish man, he was very meticulous. The middle-aged man shook his head slightly. He turned around and stared at the 20 or so people riding Class 2 magical beasts behind him. He said, "Let's go find an inn to stay in for the time being." "Martial uncle, aren't we going straight to the Kai clan?" As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, a doubtful voice came from behind him. "The situation has changed. Let's find an inn to stay in first." After saying this, the middle-aged man rode his Class 3 magic beast forward. In a luxuriously decorated room with closed windows, a middle-aged man was sitting with 2 other middle-aged men of the same age as him. One of them was wearing a blue suit and had short hair that was about an inch long. He looked very capable. The other was a bald man with a sturdy figure. His pair of thick and muscular arms were exposed to the air. "Martial uncle, may I know why you called us here?" A middle-aged man in blue clothes asked. "This Kai clan is not simple. Even Uncle Lu Zhang of the Xia clan is dead. It seems that the mission given to us by the sect master will be very difficult to complete. The middle-aged man said with a serious face, "Martial uncle, on the way here, I've heard many rumors about Jianshin. It's said that he killed 3 Class 5 magical beasts. Although there were 2 Earth Saint Masters with the fire attribute present, for him to be able to participate in a battle with Class 5 magical beasts, his strength is definitely not weak. I think that Uncle Lu Zhang of the Xia clan was most likely killed by Jianshin because in Wake City only he has the strength to do so." The bald man said. The middle-aged man who was addressed as Martial Uncle nodded slightly and said, "The mission this time is more difficult than I imagined. Uncle Lu Zhang of the Xia clan is about the same strength as me. I never thought that even he would die here. It seems that we need to pay a visit to this mysterious expert called Jianshin. Let's not delay any longer. Martial Uncle, why don't we go now?" The middle-aged man's suggestion was quickly approved by the other 2. All right, following which, the 3 men left the inn at the same time. Riding their expensive magical beasts, they casually asked around for directions and headed straight for the Kai clan. Arriving at the main gate of the Kai clan, the 3 middle-aged men dismounted at the same time and walked up to one of the guards. They cupped their hands and said, "Brother, we are from the magnificent Heaven sect. We have something to discuss with your patriarch. May I ask if you can go in and inform him?" The middle-aged man did not reveal an overly arrogant expression and spoke in an amiable tone. "All right, I'll go in and inform him. Please wait a moment." The guard did not hesitate and immediately ran in to inform the patriarch. The 3 middle-aged men waited quietly outside the door with a calm expression on their faces. In the Kai clan, Jianshin, Kai Er, and Hiduokong were in the main hall discussing how to deal with the Xia clan's arrival. Although they could not be sure if the Xia clan would make a big fuss over the death of the middle-aged man, they still had to be prepared in order to avoid being caught off guard. At this moment, a guard ran in from outside and said, "Reporting to the patriarch, there are 3 people outside who claim to be from the magnificent Heaven sect. They want to see the patriarch." "What? The magnificent Heaven sect?" Hearing this, Kai Er's expression changed slightly. He stared sharply at the guard and asked again, "Are there really only 3 of them?" "Yes, patriarch, there are only 3 of them." The guard bowed and replied. Looking at Kai Er's expression, Jianshin frowned slightly and said, "Kai Er, what kind of power is the magnificent Heaven sect? How strong are they?" "Leader, the magnificent Heaven sect is a sect. The sect's encampment is on a mountain more than 2,000 kilometers away from Wake City. Their exact strength is unknown, but they are not weaker than the Xia clan. In fact, they might even be stronger than the Xia clan." Kai Er said in a low voice, his face solemn. Jianshin tapped his head, feeling a headache coming on. He muttered, "The temptation of a level 5 demon core is really great. We just defeated the Xia clan, but who would have thought that in such a short time, another sect that is even stronger than the Xia clan would appear? Leader, the magnificent Heaven sect is obviously here for the level 5 demon core. How do you think we should deal with this? Should we deal with it the same way we dealt with the Xia clan?" Emotian asked. Jianshin shook his head lightly and said, "Let's go out and take a look first. Although I am not afraid of trouble, I still have to think of the brothers in the group. Unless we have no other choice, we should avoid offending powerful factions." Soon after, Jianshin led Duokong and the others towards the Kai clan's main gate. From afar, Jianshin saw 3 middle-aged men in tight robes standing straight outside the gate. One was at the peak of the Great Saint Master level, while the other 2 were mid-level Great Saint Masters. "I am Jianshin. May I know if the 3 of you are from the magnificent Heaven sect?" Jianshin cupped his hands towards the 3 men as he arrived at the main gate. When the 3 middle-aged men's gazes landed on Jianshin's face, a trace of surprise appeared in their eyes, following which the man in the lead smiled and cupped his hands towards Jianshin. "So this is Sir Jianshin. You are indeed as young as the rumors say. You are truly a hero from the younger generation. The three of us are from the Huayan sect. I am Qing Yin, and these two are my two junior brothers, Qing Yi, Qing Mu. Chapter 257. Seeing that the attitude of the three from the magnificent sect was not bad and that they didn't want to cause trouble as soon as the Xia clan arrived, Jianqin secretly let out a sigh of relief. Now he was no longer as fearless as before. Because of the Raging Flame mercenary group, Jianqin didn't want to offend too many powerful forces. Otherwise, it would bring disaster to the lives of his brothers in the Raging Flame mercenary group. After exchanging a few pleasantries with the three from the magnificent sect, Jianqin invited them into the Kai clan. In the small room that Jianqin lived in, Jianqin and the three from the magnificent sect sat in front of a stone table. His gaze slowly swept across the faces of the three, and he smiled. I heard that the magnificent sect is more than 2,000 kilometers away from Wake City. I wonder why the three of you have come all the way here. Jianqin didn't waste time on nonsense and went straight to the point. Hearing this, the three of them looked at each other and hesitated for a moment. Then Qing Yin opened his mouth and said, "To be honest, a few days ago our magnificent sect found out that Sir Jianqin has a rank 5 monster core. Our magnificent sect needs a rank 5 monster core very much. So our sect leader specially ordered me to come to Wake City to see if we can buy the rank 5 monster core." Jianqin's face showed a trace of regret. He said, "I'm sorry, although I have a rank 5 monster core, I don't plan on selling it because I need it very much myself." Jianqin's cultivation required a large amount of monster cores, and the recovery of the Azure Sword Spirits also required a large amount of energy. Although he had a lot of rank 3 and rank 4 monster cores, they weren't enough for him to squander for a long time. A rank 5 monster core was equivalent to 100 rank 4 monster cores to Jianqin. It was even more powerful than 100 rank 4 monster cores. Therefore, Jianqin definitely wouldn't sell a rank 5 monster core. Moreover, he didn't lack money at the moment. Although a rank 5 monster core could be bought in a bustling city where experts gathered, in this remote Wake City, a rank 5 monster core was very precious. Moreover, even if one could buy a rank 5 monster core in a big city, it was very expensive. Hearing Jianqin's words, Qing Yin and the other two people's faces were filled with disappointment even though they had already expected this result. Level 5 monster cores were extremely precious. Even with the influence of the Huatian sect, it was very difficult to obtain one. If one went to a big city to buy one, it would be possible to buy one, but at the same time, the risk was extremely high. If the news was leaked, it would be hard to avoid encountering bandits along the way. In the Tianyuan continent that was filled with strife, it was not as if there were no Earth Saint Master bandits. In some large bandit groups, there were even Heaven Saint Masters who were at the pinnacle. After chatting with Jianqin for a while, Qing Yin and the other two people hurriedly left. When they returned to the inn, Qing Yin and the other two people gathered in a room with the windows tightly shut. "Martial uncle, this Jianqin really didn't want to sell the rank 5 monster core. What should we do now?" The bald man, Qing Mu, asked. Qing Yin frowned and said, "This Jianqin person may look young, but based on my many years of experience, I can tell that he is not simple. He is very mysterious, and his strength is very shocking. Although I can't accurately estimate his strength, the fact that he was able to participate in a battle with a rank 5 magical beast is enough to prove that his strength is not ordinary. I estimate that he is even stronger than me. Uncle Lu Zhang of the Xia clan must have been killed by him. Martial uncle, are we going to just go back like this?" The one who spoke was Qing Shan, his face full of unwillingness. The middle-aged man was silent for a while before saying, "To have such strength at such a young age, the only thing I am worried about is that Jianqin must have an extremely powerful background. We cannot act rashly on this matter. I must personally return to the Tianhua sect and report this matter to the sect leader and ask him to make a decision. Qing Yun, Qing Shan, the two of you will stay in Wake City for the time being. Keep an eye on the recent movements in Wake City, but remember, do not go to the Kai clan to cause trouble. Everything will be discussed when I return. Yes, Marshal Uncle. The two of them replied at the same time. Although the three of them looked to be about the same age, Qing Yun's position in the hearts of Qing Mu and Qing Shan was clearly not ordinary. Qing Yun did not hesitate for a moment. After giving his instructions, he immediately rode his rank 3 magical beast at full speed towards the Tianhua sect 2,000 miles away. In the Kai clan, Jianqin was temporarily staying in a small, independent courtyard. Ever since Qing Yin and the other two left, Jianqin had been sitting in front of a stone table with his head lowered, deep in thought. The temptation of a rank 5 monster core had already exceeded Jianqin's expectations. He did not think that for a rank 5 monster core, even a powerful organization with an Earth Saint Master would not hesitate to travel thousands of miles just to purchase a rank 5 monster core. Jianqin clearly knew that if it were not for his strength that made them fear him, the rank 5 monster core in his hands would have already been taken by someone else. Today he had first sent away the Xia clan. Not long after, the Huatian sect, whose strength was not any weaker than the Xia clan, had arrived. Both of these clans were not to be trifled with. Both of them had Earth Saint Masters. Who could say for sure whether or not there would be even stronger clans or even more clans looking for him in the future? Earth Saint Masters were already enough to pose a threat to Jianqin. From the previous battle with the 3 rank 5 magical beasts, Jianqin had already vaguely guessed that if he were to encounter a rank 1 or rank 2 Earth Saint Master, he should be able to deal with them with the Amulet Sword Chi. If he were to encounter a rank 5 or rank 6 Earth Saint Master, his chances of survival would be very slim. The difference between Earth Saint Masters was also very large, which was why they were divided into rank 6. The difference between the rank 1 and rank 6 was like an insurmountable chasm. The Earth Saint Masters of the Xia clan and the Amulet sect were already enough to make Jianqin feel threatened, especially the Flame Mercenaries. They seemed to have a few great Saint Masters, but if they were to go up against those large clans, they would have no chance of victory. I need to use this time to increase my strength. Jianqin made up his mind and immediately returned to his room. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, Jianqin held a Class 4 monster core in each hand as he thought to himself. Ever since he broke through to Great Saint Master and communicated with the Amulet Sword Spirits, he understood that they were currently incomparably weak. They needed large amounts of energy to slowly recover, and the strength of the Amulet Sword Spirits was directly related to the strength of his Sword Chi. If he could let the weakened Amulet Sword Spirits recover some of their strength, then the Sword Chi he could borrow would be even more powerful. However, Jianqin did not dare guarantee that he would be able to let the Amulet Sword Spirits recover some of their strength. Right now, he had 2 methods to increase his own strength. The first was to directly channel all of his energy to the Amulet Sword Spirits so that they could recover as soon as possible and borrow their powerful Sword Chi. The second was to directly use the energy on himself to increase his own strength. However, if he followed the second method, then unless he reached the peak of Great Saint Master, he would not be able to threaten an Earth Saint Master. Chapter 258. Jianqin sat cross-legged on his bed as he continuously absorbed the energy from the 2 Class 4 monster cores in his hands. Ever since he had reached the Great Saint Master level, the rate at which he absorbed the energy from the monster cores was much faster than before. What surprised Jianqin the most was that the awakened sword spirits no longer fought over the energy as fiercely as before. He could now absorb half of the energy from the monster cores, unlike before when he could only absorb 10% or less of the energy. The remaining 90% was snatched away by the sword spirits. The sword spirits already had their own consciousness and the ability to think independently. Although they couldn't communicate with others normally, they could use another method to communicate with Genshin's consciousness. They could use a mysterious method to convey their thoughts to Genshin. In the Kai clan, it wasn't just Genshin who was cultivating. Even the members of the Flame mercenary group had taken out their monster cores and locked themselves in their rooms to cultivate. The appearance of the Xia clan and the Magnificent sect had caused the members of the Flame mercenary group to feel a great deal of pressure. Although they had only joined the Flame mercenary group for a few days and hadn't interacted with Genshin for long, Genshin's way of doing things had already gained the approval of many of the mercenaries. In the blink of an eye, it was already evening. Ever since the people of the Huayun sect had left, the Kai clan had been very peaceful. No one had come to disturb them. On a mountain 2,000 kilometers away from Wake City, in a dense forest shrouded in darkness, one could clearly see a large open space. A large number of buildings and pavilions stood tall in the darkness. The lights of the buildings were like fireflies, very obvious in the darkness. The Huatian sect was located in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Within the kingdom, it could be considered as one of the top forces. Since the establishment of the Huatian sect, it had been almost 100 years. After 100 years of development, the Huatian sect had begun to develop. There were more than 1,000 disciples in the sect. Among them, there were more than 50 great Saint Masters. It was the strongest force within 1,000 miles. In a secret room in this building, 2 middle-aged men in martial arts attire sat opposite each other. "Martial uncle, the situation is like this. I don't know what we should do." A middle-aged man said with a serious face. This person was Qing Yin. After returning to the Magnificent Sky sect, Qing Yin immediately reported the situation in Wake City to the sect leader of the Magnificent Sky sect. The middle-aged man in blue, sitting opposite Qing Yin, lowered his head in deep thought. He was the sect leader of the Huatian sect, Qing Tian. He was only 5 years older than Qing Yin. Although the two of them were not that old, Qing Tian's talent in cultivation was not something Qing Yin could compare to. A few years ago, Qing Tian had already broken through the bottleneck of the great Saint Master and gloriously became an Earth Saint Master. With his talent, who knew how much his strength had increased after these few years? As for Qing Yin, he was still at the peak of the great Saint Master level. Qing Tian frowned and thought for a moment before slowly saying, "Although a level 5 monster core is very precious, it is not priceless. In some large cities, level 5 monster cores are still relatively common. Since Genshin is not willing to sell it, then let's forget about this matter. We must not force him or do anything out of the ordinary. I have always felt that this Genshin's people are not simple. If we offend them, I'm afraid that it will cause trouble for our Magnificent Sky sect. Senior, are you worried that Genshin has a powerful background?" Qing Yin's face became serious. Qing Tian nodded slightly and said, "Yes, this is exactly what I am worried about. However, regardless of whether this Genshin has a powerful background or not, just his talent in cultivation is shocking enough. To have such strength in his 20s, such a genius is rare even in the entire Tian Yuan continent. If he is given a few more years, I'm afraid that he will become a peak expert of the Tian Yuan continent. Right now, we have no enmity with him. For a level 5 monster core, it is not worth it for us to offend such a genius. Junior, you should return to Wake City tomorrow morning. If possible, do your best to befriend Genshin." Qing Yin nodded slightly and said, "Senior, I didn't think that you would have the same thoughts as me. It was because of this that I personally came to report this matter to you." Qing Tian smiled and looked at Qing Yin with a complicated gaze. He said, "Junior, your strength has already reached the peak of Great Saint Master. If you are given a level 5 monster core, I wonder if you have the confidence to break through to Earth Saint Master?" Hearing that, Qing Yin sighed and became dejected. He shook his head, no. Although Class 5 mana cores can help people break through to the Earth Saint Master level. I'm still not completely confident. Once I shatter my Saint weapon, it'll be very difficult for me to condense it again. Qingyan paused when he reached there. After pausing for a moment, he said, "Senior, it is getting late. I will return to my room to rest. I still have to rush to Wake City tomorrow morning." After saying this, Qingyan stood up and left the room. At the same time, in a mountain range 1,000 kilometers away, a huge villa stood quietly in a small forest. This villa was the headquarters of the Xia family. It had already been several decades since the Xia family had been founded, and the first patriarch was already an Earth Saint Master. Because of his existence, the Xia family had become the greatest organization in a radius of 1,000 kilometers. The strength of the clan had also become more and more powerful. However, the headquarters of the Xia family was not located in the city. For the sake of convenience and freedom of movement, they had built their headquarters in the wilderness. They had only set up a branch of the Xia family in a second-class city a few dozen kilometers away. At this moment, in the main hall of the Xia family home, more than 20 people were sitting quietly in the main hall. In the middle of the hall, a stretcher covered by a white cloth was lying there, outlining the shape of a human body. The white cloth was stained with bright red blood, and the atmosphere in the main hall was heavy. At this moment, an old man in a white robe with a long beard walked out from the back of the hall and sat at the head of the table. Following the appearance of the old man, the people sitting in the row below all revealed a trace of respect in their eyes. "Greetings to the old patriarch." Just as the old man sat down, the 20 or so people below all left their seats and knelt on one knee on the ground, kowtowing. The old man did not even look at them. His gaze was fixed on the stretcher in the center of the hall. His expression was somewhat complicated. After a while, the old man waved his hand and said, "Everyone sit down." "Yes, old patriarch." At this moment, everyone finally dared to sit down again. Their expressions were very natural, without the slightest trace of displeasure. From this, it could be seen that the old man held a very high position in their hearts. The old man stared at the stretcher in the center of the hall for a long time. In the end, he let out a long sigh and stood up from his seat. He slowly walked to the side of the stretcher, squatted down, and gently removed the white cloth. A middle-aged man's face was exposed to the air. The middle-aged man's empty eyes were open. He had died with a grievance. His neck was dyed red with blood, and there was a very small wound. Chapter 259. As soon as the old man's words fell, the atmosphere in the hall became heavy. The 20-plus people seated below all looked at the old man with apprehension. As the upper echelons of the Xia family, they knew of the relationship between Uncle Lu and the old man. Now that Uncle Lu had been killed, they felt that it would be difficult to explain. The old man's gaze gradually became sharp, like a sharp sword sweeping across the crowd below. Everyone who was swept by the old man's gaze felt their hearts tremble. "Old family head, I think you should ask young Master Xia about this matter. You will only be able to obtain the most detailed information from him." After a moment of silence in the hall, a middle-aged man with a face full of apprehension and sweat dripping down his forehead finally spoke up. "Immediately call Xia Lu over." The old man's face was expressionless as he shouted in a deep voice. Immediately, one of them retreated and quickly brought in the eldest young master of the Xia family, Xia Lu. Young Master Xiao's expression was somewhat fearful as he walked into the hall and knelt down. "Grandson Xia, Lu greets grandfather." When the old man's gaze landed on Xia Lu, his originally sharp gaze gradually became gentle. He slowly said, "Lu'er, what exactly happened? Who killed your Uncle Lu?" "Grandfather, you must avenge Uncle Lu." Xia Lu's face suddenly became filled with grief. He immediately exaggerated the process of the conflict between Wake City and Jianqin, pushing all the blame onto the Kai family and Jianqin. He especially made it sound as if Jianqin was the cause of the incident. However, he did not hide anything about Jianqin's strength. He told the old man the truth about how he had killed Uncle Lu with a single sword strike. After Xia Lu finished speaking, the old man sitting at the head of the table fell silent, his brows slightly furrowed as his eyes flickered with uncertainty. After a moment of silence, the old man finally spoke. "Lu-er, is what you said true? That person called Jianqin killed your Uncle Lu with a single sword strike." "Grandfather, this time it is absolutely true. If you don't believe me, you can ask the guards. They also saw this scene with their own eyes. This person called Jianqin is really too much. Not only did he not put our Xia family in his eyes, he even insulted us. Grandfather, you must not let Jianqin off and avenge Uncle Lu." Xia Lu said with a face full of anger. His hatred for Jianqin was bone deep. "Old family head, this person called Jianqin is really too much. If we do not do something about this matter, I'm afraid it will affect our Xia family." A middle-aged man sitting below the old man spoke. "That's right, old family head. We definitely cannot let this matter rest. We must avenge Uncle Lu." Although they had heard that Uncle Lu was killed with a single sword strike, they were not worried in the slightest. Everyone was very confident in the old family head's strength. Now that Uncle Lu Zheng has been murdered, no matter how strong the other party is, no matter who they are, we cannot let this matter rest. Furthermore, this child, Uncle Lu Zheng, has done many things for the Xia family over the years and has made many contributions. I cannot let this child die in vain. Zhang Hua, immediately send a few smart people to Wake City to scout out the situation. Before we act, we must clearly understand the other party's strength. Yes, old family head. The next few days were relatively peaceful. The storm caused by the magical beast wave had gradually subsided, and the entire city had returned to its former glory. Jianqin's high price of a search for Kendall's relatives also affected everyone's hearts. Almost everyone was moved by the high reward. Many people even used various methods to search openly and covertly, hoping to find a clue to claim the high reward. However, after a few days, Jianqin still did not obtain any useful information. On the other hand, there were many people who reported fake clues to get the reward money. In the past few days, Jianqin remained in the Kai clan to cultivate and did not leave. Only Commander Duo Li came by once a day to report the missing person notice to Jianqin. The 3 middle-aged men from the Magnificent Sky Sect who came to the Kai clan previously also came to the Kai clan to look for Jianqin. They casually chatted with Jianqin on a few topics. As time passed, Jianqin and the 3 middle-aged men from the Magnificent Sky Sect unknowingly became closer. Jianqin also heard some information about the Xia clan from the 3 of them. However, what made him feel at ease was that the Xia clan currently only had one Earth Saint Master. He had only broken through 10 years ago, and his talent for cultivation was not outstanding. Currently, he was still in the 2nd or 3rd cycle and did not pose much of a threat to Jianqin. While cultivating, Jianqin also sent a few people from the Flame Mercenaries to the Xia clan. Although they could not observe every movement of the Xia clan, if a large group of people set off, they would still be able to discover them. In the past few days, Jianqin's strength had increased at a terrifying rate. Currently, his strength was close to that of an intermediate Great Saint Master. In the evening, a bare-chested young man rushed into the Kai clan. He did not stop at all along the way and hurriedly entered Jianqin's small courtyard. "Captain, this morning, a large group of people from the Xia clan set off in the direction of Wake City." This person from the Flame Mercenaries reported while panting. Jianqin sat cross-legged on his bed, still maintaining his cultivation posture. He calmly looked at the young man in front of him and said, "How many of them came, and when will they arrive?" "There are a total of over 300 people. Because of the large number of people, their journey is rather slow. If they travel through the night, they will arrive at Wake City in the middle of the night. If they rest at night, they will probably arrive at noon tomorrow." The mercenary said with a serious expression. Jianqin expressionlessly waved his hand and said, You can leave." After the mercenary left, Jianchen sat cross-legged on his bed and lowered his head in thought. He muttered, "With the flame mercenary's strength, fighting the Xia clan head-on is like throwing an egg at a rock. Instead of sitting there and waiting for death, why not take the initiative to attack and use the cover of the night to deal a heavy blow? Only this way can the casualties be minimized." After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Jianchen led the 7 great Saint Masters of the Flame Mercenaries and left Wake City on Class 2 magical beasts. However, just as Jianchen was a kilometer away from Wake City, he was stopped by 3 people wearing tight clothes and riding magical beasts. These 3 people were Qing Yin, Qing Mu, and Qing Yi from the Magnificent Sect. "Hee, Brother Jianchen, where are you going?" Qing Yin, who was riding a Class 3 magical beast, smiled as he looked at Jianchen. Jianchen cupped his hands and smiled. "So it's you, Brother Qing Yin. Since we are going out so late, we naturally have something to do." Qing Yin chuckled and said, "If my guess is correct, Brother Jianchen is going to deal with the Xia clan." Jianchen nodded and did not deny it. Qing Yin's expression suddenly became serious, and he continued, "Brother Jianchen, it's not that I am looking down on you, but this time the Xia clan has sent a lot of people. Among them, there are more than 10 great Saint Masters, and the rest are all Saint Masters. Moreover, the Xia clan's old master has personally come. With just the 8 of you, even if you can defeat them, you will have to pay a heavy price." Hearing this, Jianchen frowned slightly. The Xia clan's lineup was indeed a little out of his expectations. Chapter 260. Jianchen's face was filled with astonishment. He then smiled and said, "Brother Qing Yin is willing to help me. Of course, I am very grateful. However, what I am puzzled about is that Brother Qing Yin is not afraid of offending the Xia clan and causing trouble for the Huatian sect. Brother Jianchen, you may not know this, but although our Huatian sect and the Xia clan are very far apart, there have been some conflicts in the past. Later on, a few of our Huatian sect's disciples mysteriously disappeared. We guessed that it was most likely the Xia clan's doing, but we could not find any concrete evidence. As for the Xia clan, our Huatian sect has long wanted to exterminate them. However, once the war starts, although we are confident that we can exterminate the Xia clan, our Huatian sect will also suffer great losses. Therefore, this matter has been delayed. Now that Brother Jianchen wants to find trouble with the Xia clan, the 3 of us should lend you a hand," Qing Yin said calmly. "Hee, since that is the case, Jianchen will thank the 3 of you for your help." Jianchen's face was filled with joy. With the 3 of them, the difficulty of this trip would undoubtedly be reduced by a lot. Jianchen, Qing Yin, and the other 2 did not say much. They all rode their demonic beasts at full speed in the direction of the Xia clan. At this moment, it was already early in the morning, and the sky was already pitch black. Layers of dark clouds covered the sky, completely covering the full moon hanging high in the sky. Within the thick, dark clouds, there was even the sound of rolling thunder that resounded through the sky from time to time. 300 kilometers away from Wake City, there were over 100 tents scattered around the area. Dozens of bonfires were slowly burning, and the bright light from the flames was like a naughty child jumping around, illuminating the surroundings. In the center of the campsite, a flag was raised high. Under the weak light of the flames, one could faintly see the large word Xia written on it. At this moment, most of the people in the campsite were already resting. Only a few people in charge of patrolling the tents, occasionally adding some firewood. Boom! A muffled sound of thunder suddenly exploded. The sound was very loud and deafening. The flash of lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating the entire night as if it was daytime. Shortly after, bean-sized raindrops began to pour down from the sky, quickly extinguishing the burning bonfire. The entire campsite was plunged into complete darkness. The bean-sized raindrops fell densely onto the ground, creating loud noises. What bad luck to actually encounter such terrible weather. Several people in charge of patrolling cursed one after another as they crawled into their tents to take shelter from the rain. 500 meters away from the campsite, several figures were moving forward in the dark rain like ghosts. The loud sound of the rain hitting the ground completely covered the movement of these people. These people were none other than Gentian's group that had set off from Wake City in the evening. When they were about 200 meters away from the campsite, Gentian's group paused for a moment and gathered together to discuss the situation. Soon after, Gentian carefully snuck into the campsite alone while the others waited in place. Gentian arrived at the outermost tent and paused for a moment. Then he carefully opened the tent and snuck in. The inside of the tent was pitch black and he couldn't even see his own fingers. He couldn't even see half a person's shadow. Gentian relied on his powerful divine sense to detect the breathing of 3 people in the tent. Without any hesitation, the light wind sword appeared in his right hand, and he stabbed out 3 times before immediately retreating. Gentian was very confident in his swordsmanship. Just now, he had accurately stabbed the throats of the 3 people, instantly ending their lives without making a single sound. Gentian carefully approached the rest of the tents, allowing the rain to fall on his body. Right now, he looked like a drowned rat. His clothes had long since been soaked, and his entire body was dripping with rainwater. Originally, Gentian had planned on fighting the Xia family, but the sudden rain made him change his plan. If he could assassinate a few of the Xia family members before the battle started, then it would greatly weaken the Xia family's strength. If he could assassinate the old patriarch of the Xia family, who was already an Earth Saint Master, then these people wouldn't be much of a threat to Gentian. However, Gentian still didn't have the confidence to assassinate an Earth Saint Master. So right now, he only wanted to clean up a few small fries and weaken the Xia family's strength as much as possible. Although assassination wasn't Gentian's forte, because the downpour completely covered up the movements caused by Gentian's actions, no one noticed him. In just a short incense stick's worth of time, Gentian had already killed over 100 people through assassination, accounting for 1/3 of the total number of people here. After another incense stick's worth of time, the number of people who had died at Gentian's hands had already neared 200. Right now, more than half of the tents in the surroundings were completely filled with blood. Quite a lot of blood had dripped outside, slowly spreading in all directions along with the rain. A faint smell of blood drifted around the campsite. Right in the center, in a huge tent, the old patriarch of the Xia family sat cross-legged on a prayer mat with his eyes tightly shut in cultivation. His entire body didn't move at all, as if he was a stone statue. At this moment, the old patriarch's nose twitched slightly. Following that, his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened and 2 rays of light flashed through them. The old patriarch fiercely sniffed the air and slightly wrinkled his brows as he muttered, "Strange. Why is there a faint smell of blood in the air?" As soon as his voice fell, the old patriarch's ears slightly twitched as if he had sensed something. His expression greatly changed as he immediately roared, "Everyone wake up! There's an enemy." Before his voice even fell, the old patriarch had already disappeared from the tent. Within the Xia family's tent, everyone who was still alive was startled awake. Not caring about the heavy rain outside, they all quickly rushed out of their tents. Since his tracks had been exposed, Gentian no longer concealed himself. With the light wind sword in his hand, he immediately charged towards the people closest to him. He had to kill as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time. Gentian immediately attacked with all his strength. In the darkness of the night, the light wind sword transformed into countless sword shadows that instantly enveloped several people and pierced their throats. The old patriarch of the Xia family also discovered Gentian and immediately let out an angry roar. With a machete in his right hand, he charged towards Gentian. At the same time, 200 meters away, the 7 great Saint Masters of the Raging Flame Mercenaries and the 3 new members of the Qing Yin sect also quickly rushed over. The light wind sword in Gentian's hand emitted a layer of hazy silver light. In the darkness of the night, it was extremely clear. A trace of intense and sharp sword chi was emitted, causing those who were closer to Gentian to be able to clearly feel the sharpness of the light wind sword. Right now, everyone in the tent was rushing towards Gentian. With the light wind sword in hand, Gentian directly charged into the crowd of people and killed them, avoiding the attacks of the old patriarch of the Xia family. In a short period of time, close to 10 Saint Masters had died under Gentian's sword. With the light wind sword's extreme speed, even great Saint Masters had to carefully avoid it. Furthermore, these people who were only Saint Masters had no way of retaliating against Gentian's swift sword. Those who had their throats slit didn't even have time to scream before dying. Facing Gentian, who had already charged into the crowd of people, the old patriarch of the Xia family was greatly restricted. In the darkness of the night, it was difficult to see Gentian and the dozens of people from the Xia family. Even with the old patriarch's eyesight, it was difficult for him to distinguish them. Even if he caught sight of Gentian's figure, it would only be a flash, making it difficult for him to make a move. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would injure his own people. Seeing the people of the Xia family fall one after another in the darkness of the night, the old patriarch of the Xia family was so angry that his chest began to heave up and down. He immediately roared, "Everyone disperse!" Hearing this, the people of the Xia family all scattered, leaving Gentian for the old patriarch to deal with. As the people of the Xia family scattered, the old patriarch finally locked onto Gentian's figure. Without any hesitation, he immediately swung his machete towards Gentian. Feeling the strong wind coming from behind him, Gentian's eyes became even sharper. The light wind sword in his hand suddenly glowed with a faint purple and green light. Without any fear, Gentian swung his sword towards the Xia family head's broadsword and slashed it towards the old master's broadsword. Chapter 261. Ding! The light wind sword and the machete collided with each other in midair, letting out a crisp sound of metal clashing against each other. A strong burst of chi exploded from the point of impact, causing the surrounding rain to scatter in all directions. The two saint weapons separated upon contact, and Gentian's body uncontrollably retreated more than 10 steps before stabilizing himself. His right hand that was holding the light wind sword was trembling slightly. After all, the difference in strength between him and the Xia clan head was just too great. Furthermore, the azure and violet sword chi could only strengthen his attacks, but not his saint force. This time, after clashing with the Xia clan head, Gentian's body had also been shaken. He felt the blood in his body churn, almost causing him to spit out blood. The difference between an Earth Saint Master and a Great Saint Master was like a chasm between heaven and earth. Even a battle skill would not be able to make up for it. If Gentian's body was not as tough as a normal person's, then he would have been heavily injured. The Xia clan head's body violently trembled, and his face instantly became pale. A low groan came from his throat as a trace of blood uncontrollably flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The Xia family head's face was filled with shock. He immediately raised the holy weapon in his hand and examined it closely. Even though the sky was pitch black and he could not even see his own fingers in front of his face, he could still clearly sense that there was a gap about the size of a finger on the holy weapon in his hand. How is this possible? The Xia clan head couldn't believe it. At this moment, his heart was like a raging sea, unable to calm down as it was filled with fear. He was already an Earth Saint Master, and the saint weapon in his body had already become incomparably tough. It could be said that anyone below the strength of a Heaven Saint Master would not be able to cause any damage to a saint weapon even if they used a battle skill. But at this moment, his saint weapon was actually damaged, and there was even a small crack about the size of a finger. How could he not be shocked? Is he a Heaven Saint Master? The old patriarch of the Xia family was filled with fear. However, as soon as this thought appeared, He immediately dismissed it because he could feel that Jianqin was definitely much weaker than him when he clashed with Jianqin. It was impossible for him to possess the strength of a Heaven Saint Master. What is going on? The patriarch's face was rather pale as blood flowed from his mouth. No matter how hard he tried, he could not understand how his saint weapon had been destroyed. Logically speaking, anyone who could destroy his saint weapon would be a peak expert of the Tianyuan continent. Killing him would be as easy as crushing an ant for someone like that. It was impossible for him to be forced back in a single strike. With his saint weapon damaged, the old patriarch of the Xia family was also heavily injured. Just as the old patriarch of the Xia family was filled with confusion, Jianqin once again charged at him with the light wind sword. The light wind sword emitted a hazy silver sword chi that was like a bright lamp in the dark night. The only thing that could be seen was a flash of silver light. The sharp tip of the sword pierced through the large droplets of rain and stabbed towards the old patriarch's throat. Even though Jianqin's sword was extremely fast, the old patriarch of the Xia family was still an Earth Saint Master. Jianqin's speed was not as serious of a threat to the old patriarch of the Xia family as compared to a great Saint Master. Suppressing his injuries, the old patriarch of the Xia family suddenly released a layer of blue saint force from the machete in his right hand. Immediately, the surrounding rainwater seemed to be attracted by some mysterious force and quickly gathered around the machete in the old patriarch's hand. Circles after circles of rainwater began to revolve around the machete, forming a water dragon as thick as an arm that shot towards Jianqin. The light wind sword was wrapped in a layer of purple and green sword chi as it pierced through the water dragon, heading straight for the old patriarch's throat. The old patriarch of the Xia family's eyes flashed with a cold light. He did not believe in evil and once again swung his machete towards Jianqin. The machete carried a surge of saint force as it cut through the air like a bolt of lightning. The machete seemed to contain some kind of mysterious force as it cut through the air. As the machete chopped down, there was actually a faint pressure exerted on Jianqin's body. This time, the old patriarch of the Xia family directly used a battle skill. Every battle skill, once it was used, would carry a faint pressure. The higher the level of the battle skill, the stronger the pressure would be. However, not every battle skill had a shocking momentum when it was used. Some battle skills were completely integrated into the basic attack to be used. When it was used, there was not the slightest trace of smoke or fire. Every move and style carried an unfathomable mystery of the world and had a strange and unpredictable power. The power was enormous. The old patriarch of the Xia family's machete's power was not ordinary. It was much stronger than the previous attack. When the two saint weapons collided, the powerful force sent Jianqin flying as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The old patriarch of the Xia family was not in a good condition either. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with fear and disbelief. On his saint weapon, there was another gap that was as thick as a finger. In this exchange, although he had sent Jianqin flying, there was now another gap on his saint weapon. His saint weapon is strange. Although he is not a Heaven Saint Master, his attack power is comparable to a Heaven Saint Master. I definitely cannot fight him head-on. The old patriarch of the Xia family quickly understood. At that moment, he looked at Jianqin with both shock and greed. He did not know what had caused Jianqin's attack power to become so strong. Was it a battle skill? Or a treasure? But no matter what it was definitely a priceless treasure. If he could obtain it, thinking of this, the old patriarch of the Xia family's heart began to beat rapidly. His pair of old eyes stared greedily at Jianqin. Jianqin immediately crawled up from the ground. Right now, his body was covered in mud. Ignoring his injuries, he once again rushed towards the old patriarch of the Xia family. Although he was heavily injured, the old patriarch's saint weapon had been damaged, so his injuries were even more severe than his own. As a result, compared to the old patriarch, Jianqin's injuries could only be considered light. Jianshin's light wind sword formed a dense cloud of sword images as it continuously attacked the old patriarch of the Xia family. By now, the old patriarch of the Xia family had already understood that Jianshin's personal strength was not strong, but his attack power definitely surpassed his own. Thus, he did not dare to receive Jianshin's attacks head-on. Instead, he completely avoided Jianshin's sword and attacked from the side. However, Jianshin's sword was originally focused on speed. Even though the old patriarch of the Xia family did his best to avoid Jianshin's saint weapon, he was still not as fast as Jianshin's sword. Furthermore, Jianshin also understood his only advantage over an Earth Saint Master. So he focused his attacks on the old patriarch's saint weapon in order to limit the old patriarch of the Xia family's strength. On the other side, the Huayun sects Qing Yin, Qing Mu, and Qing Shan, as well as the 7 great saint masters of the Flame Mercenaries, were already engaged in a great battle with the remaining people of the Xia family. However, the majority of the Xia family's 300 people had already been assassinated by Jianshin. Now, only a few great saint masters were left. Thus, even though Qing Yin and the Flame Mercenaries were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, they were still able to hold on. This was especially the case for Qing Yin. His strength had already reached the peak of Great Saint Master, and his body flickered with the yellow light of Earth attributed Saint Force. Combined with his battle skills, he was able to beat the Saint Masters of the Xia family to the point where they could not even retaliate. Jianshin and the old patriarch of the Xia family exchanged over 100 blows. Even though the old patriarch of the Xia family did his best to avoid Jianshin's sword, he was still stabbed 3 times by the light wind sword, causing a total of 5 holes to appear on his saint weapon. As the damage to his saint weapon became more and more severe, the backlash that the old patriarch of the Xia family suffered also became more and more severe. If his saint weapon was destroyed by Jianshin, then not only would his powerful strength go to waste, his life would also be in danger. Who are you? Why did you sneak attack my Xia family? Could it be that my Xia family has some sort of enmity with you? The old patriarch of the Xia family finally couldn't hold it in anymore and loudly asked. Jianshin's attacks didn't stop as he coldly smiled. I'll let you die with a clear understanding. I am the person that your Xia family wants to deal with. The old patriarch's eyes narrowed as he stared at Jianshin with an incomparably solemn expression. Could it be that you are Jianshin? That's right. Jianshin didn't deny it. As soon as he finished speaking, his attacks became even more ferocious. Today, he had to kill the old patriarch of the Xia family to prevent future troubles. He definitely didn't want the Flame Mercenaries to be targeted by an Earth Saint Master. Jianshin, I wonder if we can sit down and have a good talk? The old patriarch of the Xia family had shown weakness. Now that he was at a disadvantage, if this continued, it would be extremely disadvantageous for him. No, Jianshin flatly refused, cutting off the old patriarch's thoughts of a temporary truce. The old patriarch's face sank when he heard that. He glared at the blurry face in the darkness and heavily said, Jianshin, I, Xiafan, will remember what happened today. With that, the old patriarch no longer lingered on the battle. He turned around and fled. Jianshin immediately chased after him. Once the old patriarch of the Xia family was far away in the pouring rain, it would truly be very difficult to catch him. Although the old patriarch of the Xia family was heavily injured, he was still an Earth Saint Master after all. The abundant saint force in his body allowed him to quickly flee into the distance. The similarly heavily injured Jianshin simply couldn't catch up to him. Seeing the old patriarch gradually disappear into the distance, Jianshin's eyes flashed with a resplendent light. In the darkness of the night, they were like 2 fireflies emitting a weak light. Following that, the light wind sword in his right hand left Jianshin's hand and, as if it had transformed into an immortal sword, shot towards the old patriarch with unbelievable speed. Chapter 262. Under the heavy rain, vision was greatly affected. Adding on the fact that everyone in the Xia clan was busy fighting, no one noticed the death of the Xia clan's patriarch. After the light wind sword pierced through the Xia clan's patriarch's throat, it quickly flew back into Jianqin's hand. Jianqin held the light wind sword and immediately arrived in front of the Xia clan's patriarch. As expected of an Earth Saint Master, after having his throat pierced, he did not immediately die. His eyes were wide open and filled with disbelief. It was a pity that his throat had been pierced and he had lost the ability to speak. Otherwise, he would have asked the questions in his heart before he died. This was because he had clearly seen a sword pierce through his throat and fly through the air at an unimaginable speed without anyone controlling it. This scene had already exceeded the Xia clan's patriarch's understanding. The Xia clan's patriarch's life force was quickly draining away. Not long after, he slowly closed his eyes and left the world with a head full of questions. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and from time to time, there would be flashes of lightning that illuminated the entire sky. The heavy rain that was the size of beans slapped on the ground, creating loud hua-hua sounds, which greatly affected everyone's hearing. Jianqin's body was dripping with rain, and he had long since become soaked. He slowly squatted down and took off the Xia clan's patriarch's space belt and the space ring on his left hand. He then checked the patriarch's body to make sure that he did not miss anything important before leaving. As the previous patriarch of the Xia clan and the founder of the Xia clan, as well as an Earth Saint Master, the Xia clan's patriarch would definitely have many valuable items on him. If Jianqin wanted to expand the Flame Mercenaries, he would need a large amount of money. After killing the old master of the Xia family, Jianqin did not stop there. He raised his sword and charged towards the rest of the Xia family members. Now that he had a grudge with the Xia family, he could not show mercy. The people present were the elites of the Xia family. If he killed them, the rest of the Xia family members would not be a threat. The people of the Xia clan held an absolute advantage. Apart from a few great Saint Masters, the rest of them all had the strength of a Saint Master. After such a short battle, the 7 people of the Flame Mercenaries were all injured. Even Qing Mu and Qing Shan from the Huatian sect had a few wounds on their bodies. Only Qing Yin, who had the Earth Attribute Saint Force that specialized in defense and mastered battle techniques, was unscathed. He held back the few great Saint Masters of the Xia clan by himself, greatly reducing the pressure on the others. With the addition of Jianqin, the situation of the Flame Mercenaries, who were originally at a disadvantage, was instantly turned around. These Saint Masters could threaten ordinary great Saint Masters if they worked together, and could even kill them. However, in Jianqin's eyes, they were just a group of helpless lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Jianqin charged into the group of Xia clan members. The light wind sword turned into a sky full of sword shadows, instantly stabbing out several times. Every strike accurately sliced through their throats. Before they could even react, their lives had been mercilessly taken. Under Jianqin's extremely fast killing speed, the remaining people of the Xia clan rapidly decreased in number. Not long after, they were all wiped out. Not a single person was left alive. Jianqin's performance caused Qing Yin and the other 2 from the Huatian sect to be secretly shocked. The 300 people of the Xia clan that had come this time, including the old patriarch, who was an Earth Saint Master, had all been killed. As for Jianqin's side, only the members of the Flame Mercenaries and Qing Shan and Qing Mu had suffered heavy injuries. They were all covered in blood, and their bodies were covered in wounds of various sizes. Fresh blood continuously flowed from them. Brother Jianqin, is the old patriarch of the Xia clan dead? Qing Yin let out a long sigh and asked Jianqin. As the battle between Jianqin and the old patriarch of the Xia family was still some distance away, he was unable to see the situation on the other side in the pitch-black night. Furthermore, his battle with the old patriarch of the Xia family was extremely stressful, so he was unable to divert his attention to observe the situation on the other side. Jianqin smiled, but no one could see the smile clearly in the dark night. He said, Don't worry, I've already dealt with that old bastard. Cold sweat faintly appeared on the foreheads of the three from the Huatian sect when they heard that. They were shocked by Jianshin's strength once again. They never thought that he would be able to kill an Earth Saint Master with a battle skill in such a short amount of time. Moreover, according to the information they had gathered, the old patriarch of the Xia clan was at least a second cycle Earth Saint Master, perhaps even close to the third cycle. Fortunately, our Huayan sect didn't provoke Jianshin like the Xia clan did. It really isn't worth it to offend such a powerful genius for a Class 5 monster core, Qin Yunxin secretly thought. Jianshin arrived before the people of the Flame Mercenaries and stared at them in concern. He asked, "How are your injuries? Are there any major problems?" These people were the only ones who could be considered experts in the Flame Mercenaries. In his heart, Jianshin really didn't want to see any accidents happen to any of them. "We're all heavily injured, but we won't die." Duo Kongqiang stood up and said weakly, "Brother Jianshin, their injuries are indeed very heavy. I think we should immediately return and invite a Radiant Saint Master to heal them." Qin Yin suggested. Jianshin nodded and immediately cleaned up the battlefield. He took the 300 or so space belts from the Xia clan guards and put them into his own pouch. He then led the heavily injured people of the Flame Mercenaries back to Wake City in the rain. "Brother Jianshin, there are no Radiant Saint Masters in Wake City. Even if there were, it would be very difficult to find one. You should take them back first. I'll go to a nearby second-class city and invite a Radiant Saint Master over," Qin Yin suddenly said. "Then I'll have to trouble Brother Qin Yin." Jianshin didn't refuse and clasped his hands in thanks. "Ha, Brother Jianshin, there's no need to be so courteous." Qin Yin clasped his hands and then left alone. Qing Shan and Qing Mu were still heavily injured, so they followed Jianshin back to Wake City to heal. Due to their heavy injuries, the speed at which they returned was much slower than when they came. Jianshin's group traveled through the night and finally arrived at Wake City at dawn. In the Kai clan's courtyard, the 7 great Saint Masters of the Raging Flame Mercenary Group and Qing Shan and Qing Mu of the Huatian sect had already been properly settled. Their wounds were smeared with top-grade healing panaceas and some medicinal pills that were specially used to treat internal injuries, temporarily stabilizing their injuries. Chapter 263. Qin Yin directly brought the white-robed young man to Jianshin. He said, "Brother Jianshin, I've already invited a Radiant Saint Master over. Let's go heal them right now." Jianshin studied the young man that Qin Yin had brought over. However, the young man's arrogance made him extremely displeased. However, due to his noble status as a Radiant Saint Master and some basic etiquette, Jianshin still clasped his hands with a smile. He said, "Esteemed Saint Master, I really do feel rather apologetic for inviting you over from so far away. Once my brothers are healed, I will definitely thank you properly." The young man glanced at Jianshin, and a sliver of disdain appeared in his eyes. With his status as a Radiant Saint Master, especially one with great talent, he really did look down on these insignificant mercenaries, especially one who was much younger than him. Only Earth Saint Masters could make him feel respect. "Humph, you can't speak carelessly. I'm not your friend. Lead the way. Once the injured people are healed, I have to return immediately. I don't have that much time to waste here." The young man snorted coldly and said arrogantly. Both Jianshin and Qin Yin frowned slightly when they heard that. Although Radiant Saint Masters possessed great statuses, the young man before them was just a little too arrogant. However, they still needed his help after all, so Jianshin and Qin Yin were not petty people. The two of them said nothing and brought the young man to where the people of the Flame Mercenaries were resting. Duo Kang's group of 7 from the Flame Mercenaries and Qing Shan Qing Mu from the Huatian sect all had their own rooms. They were not very far from each other. Jianshin first brought the Radiant Saint Master to Qing Mu's room. Qing Mu was currently lying on the bed, naked. His eyes were closed and his face was pale. He only wore a pair of briefs that covered his most important part. His entire body was wrapped in white bandages that had already been dyed red with blood. The young, radiant Saint Master frowned deeply when he saw how miserable Qingmu was. He then went up and checked Qingmu's wounds. He coldly said, "He's very heavily injured, so the cost of healing him is very expensive. I hope you can be mentally prepared. Otherwise, you won't be able to pay when the time comes." A sharp light flashed through Genshin's eyes. Anyone who heard the young Radiant Saint Master's words would feel extremely displeased. Even Qing Yin frowned deeply. His gaze towards the young Radiant Saint Master was filled with hostility. Bang! Suddenly, a heavy sound rang out. The man who had come with the young Radiant Saint Master took a heavy step forward and blocked the young man's back. He glared at Jianchen and Qing Yin and said with a deep voice, "Esteemed Saint Master Assisi is one of the most outstanding members of our Radiant Saint Master Union. If you don't want to become enemies with our union, then don't show any hostility. Otherwise, I won't hold back and will report this matter to the union." Qing Yin and Genshin's expressions changed slightly when they heard the man's words. The Radiant Saint Master Union was an extremely special organization on the Tianyuan continent. Just like the Mercenary Union, it was not restricted by any country. The Radiant Saint Master Union was where all the Radiant Saint Masters on the Tianyuan continent gathered. At the same time, they provided protection to some of the Radiant Saint Masters, so they possessed a supreme status on the Tianyuan continent. At the same time, the Union possessed a large number of fighters. They were so powerful that even the 7 great empires on the Tianyuan continent were unwilling to provoke them. However, no matter who they were or how powerful they were, anyone who provoked the Radiant Saint Master Union would not be able to live for long. Jianchen and Qing Yin feared the Radiant Saint Master Union from the bottom of their hearts. They didn't dare to offend them in the slightest. This was because the Radiant Saint Master Union was not like the Huayun sect of the Jesson Kingdom. Their influence was spread across the entire continent. Once they became enemies with the Radiant Saint Master Union, they would find them and kill them no matter where they went. At the very least, there had never been anyone who managed to survive after offending the Radiant Saint Master Union. "Go ahead and heal him. I can still afford the cost," Genshin said emotionlessly. The young man sneered when he heard that. A sliver of craftiness flashed through his eyes, and he said, "His wounds are extremely severe. It'll take me a day, or 2 at the very least to heal him. It'll be very taxing on me, so the cost will be a little higher." The young man glanced at Genshin and continued, "It'll cost 50 purple coins." "What? 50 purple coins?" Genshin's face suddenly changed as he cried out in shock. This price had nothing to do with whether it was expensive or not. This was clearly a scam. 50 purple gold coins. Heavens, you are too black-hearted. Qing Yin was a little dumbfounded as he exclaimed, "Humph, his injuries are already very serious. Even with the best healing medicine, it will take him 1 or 2 months to fully recover. Moreover, no one can say for sure if there will be any side effects. I'm already being cheap by charging you 50 purple coins." The young Radiant Saint Master said with a straight face, but inside he was secretly laughing. He was quite familiar with Wake City, and it was no exaggeration to say that he was the only Radiant Saint Master in Wake City. Moreover, the Kai clan had a certain amount of influence in Wake City, so they didn't lack money. With this information in hand, the young Radiant Saint Master was able to make such a huge demand. Jianchen quickly calmed down. He looked at the young man indifferently and said, "All right, 50 purple coins it is. You can start the treatment immediately. I hope your ability is worth 50 purple coins." Jianchen's voice was extremely calm, without the slightest hint of emotion. "Wait, Brother Jianchen, this is just too expensive. Although they're all heavily injured, it'll only cost 5 purple coins at most to invite a 3rd-rank Radiant Saint Master to treat them. Qing Yin said from the side. This price was too high, and he didn't want to lose out. Jian Chen waved his hand and said, "It's fine. It's just some money. As long as Brother Qing Mu can recover as soon as possible, this amount of money is nothing." Hearing Jian Chen's words, Qing Mu sighed and didn't say anything else. The young radiant Saint Master smiled and extended his hand in front of Jian Chen, saying, "Pay up first." Jian Chen snorted disdainfully and took out a large amount of purple coins from his spatial belt, saying, "A total of 9 people need to be treated. Here are 450 purple coins. I hope your ability is worth this price." Chapter 264. After 7 days of treatment, the young Radiant Saint Master had finally healed the 7 injured members of the Flame Mercenaries and the 2 from the Magnificent Sect. During these 7 days, other than occasionally chatting with Qing Yin, Jian Chen basically spent the rest of his time cultivating in his room. After these 7 days of cultivation, with the help of the sword spirits, Jian Chen's cultivation speed increased to the level of an intermediate Great Saint Master by several dozen times. The saint force in his body had more than doubled compared to a primary Great Saint Master, and his battle prowess was even greater than before. During this time, Jian Chen had also gone to the city, Lord's Mansion, to inquire about the search for Kendall's family. However, the results left him very disappointed. Under the circumstances where the city lord had searched the entire city and even posted a high reward, there was still no news of Kendall's family. Jian Chen's last wish had become the only thing he could not let go of. However, he did not have any information about Kendall's family, so it was very difficult for him to find them. Right now, Jian Chen could only worry helplessly. There was nothing else he could do. He could only expand his search area and slowly search. The news of the Xia clan's 300 men being killed 300 li away from Wake City also spread like wildfire within Wake City. As the #1 power within 1,000 li radius, the Xia clan's influence was extremely large. This news spread like wildfire, and even some of the cities around Wake City received the news, causing quite a commotion. Now, whether it was Wake City or the surrounding cities, in the streets and alleys, as well as in some of the restaurants, one could hear mercenaries and merchants discussing this matter with great interest. I wonder who the Xia clan has offended. They actually killed 300 people. The Xia clan is the #1 power in this area. They are very powerful. Now that so many people have been killed, the Xia clan will definitely make a big fuss. That's for sure. Within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, no one can challenge the dignity of the Xia family. I've heard that the previous patriarch of the Xia family was an Earth Saint Master. Who can defeat him here? I don't think so. It's true that the Xia clan is the #1 power in this area, but this is only limited to this area. What if there are foreign experts? Maybe the Xia clan has offended some foreign expert, resulting in this disaster. Everyone was discussing animatedly with different opinions. However, the majority of them believed that the Xia family would definitely turn out in full force to regain their respect. After all, the Xia family was a force to be reckoned with within a radius of 1,000 miles. If the Xia family wanted to maintain their position, they had to do so. However, what happened next was that the Xia clan actually did not do anything. They did not even say a single word. They seemed to have chosen to swallow the humiliation of the 300 deaths. Early in the morning, Qing Yin brought Qing Mu and Qing Shan, who had already recovered from their injuries, to Jian Chen's residence. "Brother Jian Chen, we have been out for quite some time. This time, we have specially come to say goodbye to you. Because there are some matters in the sect, we have to rush back," Qing Yin said. Jian Chen cupped his hands and smiled. "All good things must come to an end. Brother Qing Yin, take care. There will be plenty of time in the future. We will definitely meet again in the future." That's true. Brother Jian Chen, if you have time in the future, you must come visit my Huatian sect. Qing Yin cupped his hands and smiled. "Of course, if I have time in the future, I will definitely visit the Huatian sect," Gentian said. Qing Yunshin suddenly thought of something and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. Brother Gentian, in half a year's time, it will be the mercenary pageant that is held once every 50 years. This mercenary pageant is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You must participate. If you miss this opportunity, then you will never have the qualifications to participate in the mercenary pageant again." Mercenary pageant. Gentian's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. He said, "Brother Qingyan, what is this mercenary pageant? Can you explain it to me in detail?" Hearing this, Qingyan's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He did not think that Gentian did not even know about the mercenary pageant. However, he still smiled and said, "It seems that Brother Gentian does not know about the mercenary pageant. All right, then I will explain it to you in detail." Speaking until here, Qingyan paused and said, "The mercenary pageant is a pageant held by the Mercenary Union of the Tianyuan continent for all the outstanding mercenaries in the world. The location of the pageant is the headquarters of the Mercenary Union, Mercenary City. Although it is called the mercenary pageant, it is actually just a competition between mercenaries. However, this competition is only held once every 50 years, and the mercenaries who can participate must be under the age of 50. As a result, not everyone can participate in the mercenary pageant. If you were born in a bad time, you would not have the qualifications to participate in the mercenary pageant. As a result, anyone who can participate in the mercenary pageant that is held once every 50 years has a trace of luck and opportunity. Every time the mercenary pageant is held, it is extremely popular. It has attracted almost all the genius mercenaries on the continent. As long as you can enter the top 100, you will receive a large amount of money as well as a Medal of Honor from the Mercenary Union. If you can enter the top 10, the rewards will be even more generous. It is said that as long as you enter the top 10, you will be able to enter the armory of Mercenary City and choose a heaven tier cultivation method. If you enter the top 3, not only will you be able to enter the armory and choose a heaven tier cultivation method, you will also be able to choose a heaven tier battle skill to cultivate. A sliver of desire flashed through Qin Yan's eyes when he mentioned the heaven tier cultivation method and battle skill. He seemed to covet them. Whether it was the cultivation method or battle skill, they were enough to cause a storm of blood on the Tianyuan continent. Their value could not be measured with money. The top 3 ranks of the mercenary pageant are each more generous than the last. I heard that not only will the champion be able to choose a battle skill from the armory, he will also be able to cultivate in the sacred grounds of Mercenary City for half a year. Qing Yin let out a long sigh when he reached there. He continued, "The sacred grounds of Mercenary City are sacred grounds in the hearts of all the experts in the world. Although I don't know what benefits there are in there, it is a place that even peak experts like Heaven Saint Masters yearn for. It is said that quite a few saint rulers have stayed in the sacred grounds of the Mercenary Union." Qin Yin let out a long sigh and sighed emotionally. Those are saint rulers, supreme saint rulers. If even existences like them stay in that place, it's more than enough to show just how sacred the sacred grounds of Mercenary City are. Gentian's heart began to thump uncontrollably when he heard that. He was tempted by the rewards Qin Yin had mentioned, let alone the sacred grounds of Mercenary City. Just the heaven tier battle skill had moved his heart. Although the heaven tier battle skill might not be suitable for him, he could still donate it to Chanyang Prefecture. Chanyang Prefecture already had a heaven tier cultivation method. They just lacked a heaven tier battle skill. Chapter 265. Jianchen lowered his head and pondered for a moment before asking, "Brother Qingyan, you said that only mercenaries under the age of 50 can participate in this gathering. Then how strong are the strongest mercenaries participating?" Qin Yin pondered for a moment before replying, "According to the information passed down from the past mercenary gatherings, the top 10 mercenaries are basically all Earth Saint Masters. After all, breaking through to the Earth Saint Master realm is just too difficult. Moreover, it is extremely dangerous. To be able to become an Earth Saint Master before the age of 50 is already considered an outstanding talent. Then, are there any Heaven Saint Masters participating in the mercenary gatherings? Jianqin continued to ask. With the assistance of the Azure Sword spirits, the threat of Earth Saint Masters to him had decreased by a lot. In his heart, Earth Saint Masters were not undefeatable. The ones that truly made Jianqin feel pressured were Heaven Saint Masters. That's impossible. Qin Yin shook his head and said, Heaven Saint Masters are already peak experts on the Tian Yuan continent. How can they be so easy to cultivate? Although there are people who can become Heaven Saint Masters before the age of 50, such geniuses are rarely seen on the Tian Yuan continent. Moreover, even if there really is someone who can become a Heaven Saint Master before the age of 50, they may not necessarily have the qualifications to participate in the mercenary gatherings. This is because the time difference between the mercenary gatherings and the mercenary gatherings eliminates the qualifications of the majority of cultivation geniuses. Hearing this, Jianqin nodded in agreement. Qin Yin was right. Not all genius mercenaries could participate in the mercenary gatherings. The mercenary gatherings were only held once every 50 years, and only those under the age of 50 had the qualifications to participate. If a genius could really become a Heaven Saint Master before the age of 50, if they were born a few years before or a few years after the mercenary gatherings, then they would miss out on the mercenary gatherings. At least until now, there had never been anyone who could become a Heaven Saint Master before the age of 30 or 40 on the Tian Yuan continent. Next, Jianqin asked Qin Yin about the details of the mercenary conference. Although Qin Yin had only mentioned a portion of the rewards for the top 10 rankers, this had already moved Jianqin's heart. After sending off Qin Yin and the other two, Jianqin immediately summoned Duokong and the other Saint Masters and asked them about the mercenary convention. However, the information they obtained was very limited. Apart from the fact that there was a mercenary convention, they didn't obtain any other valuable information. They didn't even know as much as Qin Yin. Leader, participating in the mercenary conference once every 50 years is not bad, but the mortality rate is also very high. It is said that less than 10% of the people who participate in the mercenary conference will survive, Charles said in a dignified tone. I have also heard that there are quite a few people who have reached the level of Earth Saint Master in the mercenary conference. They are very powerful, Duokong said sternly. Leader, if you want to participate in the mercenary conference, you must consider it carefully. The rewards are extremely generous, but the mortality rate is indeed quite high. At the same time, basically all the talented mercenaries on the continent have gathered in the mercenary conference this time. Some of them are talented and have good conditions. They can reach the level of Earth Saint Master before the age of 50. Some of them are born with extraordinary backgrounds and have even grasped battle skills. They are extremely powerful. Mo Tian spoke with an extremely calm tone. In their eyes, the mercenary conference that was held once every 50 years didn't have any value, as it wasn't something that they could participate in with their level. That was a stage that belonged to the experts of the mercenary world. Of course, I know that the competition there will be extremely intense. Do you know where Mercenary City is? If you do, then tell me. Jianqin calmly said. When he heard Qin Yin mention the rewards of the mercenary conference, Jianqin had already secretly made up his mind. He had to participate in the mercenary conference because a heaven tier battle skill was just too tempting. 3 days later, Jianqin finished arranging everything and left Wake City by himself. As for the members of the Raging Flame mercenary group, Jianqin gave them a mission. They were to temporarily stop hunting magical beasts to earn money and focus on all kinds of mercenary missions in order to quickly raise the level of the Raging Flame mercenary group. Before he left, Jianqin left the Flame mercenaries with several thousand purple coins and a few Class 2 monster cores that he had no use for. It was for the mercenaries' daily expenses and to buy some necessities. The flame mercenaries were currently in the process of development, so they needed to invest a large amount of money. Because Duo Kong and the others all had leadership abilities, Jianchen was very reassured to leave the flame mercenaries in their hands. Jianchan rode a Class 2 magical beast mount that was adept at running. After traveling for an entire day, he had already traveled over 1,000 miles. Only in the evening did he finally stop at a second-rank city called Blue Rich City. After entering the city, Jianchen first found an inn to stay in for the time being. He then went to the dining area on the first floor and casually ordered a few dishes to appease his hunger. The sky was gradually darkening, and it was already past dinner time. Thus, there weren't many people eating on the first floor of the inn. There were only 20 or so empty tables in the large space, and a few waiters were busying himself all over the place. Suddenly, a large group of armored soldiers escorting carriages filled with large metal chests stopped outside the inn. Following that, several middle-aged men in armor walked in with majestic steps. On the right side of their armor was an identical emblem. The emblem on the emblem was actually a miniature version of the national emblem of the Blue Wind Kingdom. "Waiter, hurry up and bring us some food. Prepare some more tables for us," one of the middle-aged men in armor called out as soon as he walked into the inn. The other middle-aged men swept their sharp gazes over the few remaining guests in the inn. "All right, sirs, please take a seat. We will immediately bring the best wine and meat. We guarantee that sirs will be satisfied." When the waiter saw the emblems on their chests, his expression abruptly changed. He didn't dare to be negligent in the slightest, and immediately welcomed them with a face full of enthusiasm. The middle-aged men in armor didn't say anything else. They directly walked to a table and sat down. Afterwards, people in armor continuously walked in from outside. There were around 100 people in total, and the entire dining hall was filled to the brim. Everyone was silent and didn't say anything. They seemed very disciplined. With the arrival of this group of people, some of the diners who were still chatting in the inn also quieted down in an instant. Although the entire first floor of the inn was filled with people, it was strangely quiet and the atmosphere was somewhat strange.